affect the people.
Our people campaign openly. It weakens the organization. In fact, it makes the policies of the ANC even more popular.
Stay tuned to Media Monitor and catch on analysts unpacking top stories every Sunday from 9 a.m.
Yeah, very good morning, everybody. We are full. The full team is here. Elvis is here. Morning, Elvis.
A very good morning to you, Eben, and how are you this morning?
I'm very, very well today. Kendall looks good as always. We're going to be with you, of course, till midday. It's a beautiful day on the Halfveld. And, well, we are eating flesh these days in South Africa, Elvis. I can't get my head around it. Makes my stomach churn a little bit, but well, is what it is.
I can tell you it's going to spoil somebody's breakfast this morning, but we need to ask the question, because the focus really is on the 4 men that has been arrested in KwaZulu-Natal. Cannibalistic tendencies, they say.
Yes, it's something.
Kendall, you have a view on it.
I have a view on it. I feel exactly the same way you do. It makes my stomach churn. It's one of those things, though, that you want to find out. To those people whose stomach doesn't churn, what's wrong with eating flesh?
What's eating wrong? Can somebody please send a tweet to Kendall? He wants to know what's wrong with eating human flesh. If we go down that route, it's reprehensible. We can't even get our heads around it. Well, we'll try and speak to the police and other stakeholders about this yesterday, but let's have a look at the tweets of us.
Let's take a look at what your views are on the 4 men being arrested for eating human flesh. Gadani says cannibalism is a serious crime, both legally and morally. These men need to be psychologically evaluated whilst in prison. Focus on prison.
Prison first and then psychological evaluation. Makoto says it's a mental issue.
Makotoko, yes, it's a mental issue. There's another one? No, there isn't. We'll put the other ones up a little bit later. Keep tweeting us. What do you think about these gentlemen? One of them, a traditional healer, we are told, eating flesh and dining out on human body parts.
And the one was saying that he had enough of human flesh.
Yeah, well, I wonder how long they've been doing this. Anyhow, of course, the big story of the last 24 hours is the takeover of the Channel 404, ANN7, and the TNA media group by Mzwanele Manyi, Elvis.
Now, Mr. Manyi has indicated that he's not fronting for the Guptas, and that is why we're asking this question. Mzwanele Manyi's takeover of ANN7 and TNA, is it A, radical economic transformation? We had to make it shorter because it doesn't fit the entire thing. Or is it fronting? So 77% of the 166 votes, Kendall, are saying it's fronting.
Absolutely, and while 23%, just under a quarter, believe that it is part of the radical economic transformation agenda.
Very interesting. What are the tweets? Let's have a look what people are saying. There's been a lot being said. Michael, the Big M, says, Newsroom, it's just a simple deal between a willing buyer and seller. Just because he's an African, it has to be a front. Economic radical transformation. Yeah, now welcome to South Africa. Some support there from a Big M.
No. Gadani says, really, are they going to try and spin it like it's some grand statement against their owners? Nah, it's just a front.
Yeah, these are big stories of the day, of course. In sports, as we always do, we put a sports question up. Wayne Rooney became only the second man to score 200 goals in the English Premier League last night, Kendall.
Yes, and he joins Alan Shearer of Newcastle United as the one player who stands out tall amongst EPL players. Scoring 200 goals has gone back to his boyhood club. We want to find out from you, do you believe that he's now an all-time great of the English Premier League?
Good done, he says to us, Elvis.
Look, in terms of legacy, not many can compare to Rooney. He truly is an all-time great, and hopefully he still has the magic left.
Well, 2 goals in 2 games, and he's on his way.
Absolutely. Boyhood club, a bit of the Torres syndrome, I believe. Nkutalo Rudintanga says he's great on his own. There's a big fan there.
Fantastic, guys. Keep tweeting us. We've got a lot of work ahead of us. We're dealing with issues of human trafficking today, but also human flesh eating and, of course, Mzwanele Manyi. But let's get into our work hours.
KZN police promise more arrests in relation to to end the trade in human body parts in the town of Escort. The new ANN7 and New Age newspaper owner Mzwanele Manyi denies allegations that he's fronting for the Guptas. And the Gauteng Education Department urges parents to respond to placement offers for their children's school enrollment. Now, those are some of your stories in this hour, but before we get there, let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening on the sports front.
Gentlemen, good morning to you midweek, and we've got lots to look forward to. It was a weekend, but lots to cover for today as well.
The day before midweek, Kendall. You've got a weekend feeling already?
I've got that weekend feeling. It's 5-2 for me. It's 5-2, and it's almost 0 o'clock. Good morning to you. This is what we've got for you in the sports today.
They're all professionals. They've all travelled there, so we know what to do and how to manage it to be fresh for the match.
The Springboks have no qualms about travelling to Argentina just 2 days before their rugby championship match in Salta.
We have a soldier here who'll go to battle for South Africa.
Preferring experience over youthful exuberance, Stuart Baxter recalls 34-year-old Morgan Gould to face Cape Verde in their 2018 World Cup qualifiers next month.
200th goal in the Premier League!
Wayne Rooney becomes only the second player after Alan Shearer in the English Premier League to score 200 goals as Everton hold Manchester City to a 1-0 draw at the Etihad.
Great finish from Rooney. It's near enough right into him, but the way he deals with it is fantastic.
I'll have these in more detail as well as other stories at 10:40. Do stay with us as Elvis has got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Top story this hour. Police in KwaZulu-Natal have given the assurance that more arrests are imminent in relation to human body parts syndicate in Escort on the province's Midlands. 4 men have been arrested and they appeared in the local magistrate's court yesterday. One of the 4 suspects confessed to cannibalism.
After handing himself over, the suspect led police to a house where different female body parts were found. The other 3 suspects include 2 traditional healers and a recently freed ex-convict. Fresh from a 15-year jail sentence, he's now collecting human legs within the syndicate. Outside court, an angry crowd demanded that the perpetrators be refused bail. Amongst them, 40-year-old Hleziphi Vilakazi, who waited anxiously, hoping to find closure. She says she lost her 8-year-old nephew, whose body had been mutilated and was missing some body parts.
2015. In 2015, my sister's son and his friend went missing after they were last seen playing outside. We reported them missing. The police searched for them for a week and their bodies were found mutilated. So I came here to see if I can identify one of the suspects.
All 4 suspects have been denied bail as investigations continue.
According to the investigating officer, there are more arrests that are going to be affected and soon, because their investigation is close to the end and there's evidence that they have.
The case has been postponed to next Monday for a formal bail application. Sibonga Gongambata, SABC News, Escort.
Now, for more on that disturbing story, we're joined on the line by KZN police spokesperson Colonel Tembeka Mbele to give us the latest on the story. A very good morning to you, Colonel, and welcome.
Good morning to you and to all the listeners.
Now, Colonel, we understand that today there will be a post-mortem for the victims. Can you tell us more about this?
Yes, today at 11 o'clock, there will be a post-mortem at the mortuary. And also the team from the National Office from Forensic have arrived, so that they'll be also there in the post-mortem, and then the blood samples have to be taken, the tissues from the deceased parts have to be taken, and also to confirm who the person is. But then we request the community from the Escort area to please come forward to the police station as soon as possible, just before 11. And then they're going to get the directives from there so that the samples. But we are calling upon the community members, the relatives of the people who went missing and they've reported them, or they're not even reported them, so that the samples will also be taken from them to identify the deceased. Because for now, we're not sure whether these body parts are for one person. So the samples are going to determine that during the postmortem. Also in the postmortem, the experts from National Office are going to reconstruct the body. Also that is going to identify whether it's a body of one person with different people.
Now, those family members that need to come forward of some of their missing family members, where should they go and how do they get in touch with you?
They should go to the Escort police station, then they're going to get the directives from there. The station, they must mention that we said, because the IO is requesting that, so that if they're at Escort, because as I'm here, I do not know where the mortuary is. But if they are at Escort police station, then the police, they are going to take them to the mortuary, or if they've got transport, they're going to direct them to the mortuary, and they're going to meet with the investigating officer there.
Now, with regards to the arrest, how many arrests are still pending or outstanding, and do you expect more to be arrested?
Yeah, we expect more to be arrested. The investigation, we're in a very, coming to the end of investigation for now. For these other suspects that has to be arrested, but arrest is imminent because we've got a good evidence against them. We only have to get them.
Is this the first time that you have found, as the police, people that either have cannibalistic tendencies or people smuggling with body parts?
Although it's not the first time, but this is the first huge incident. But you remember last month, or towards the end of last month, there was a person who was arrested here in Durban CBD, found with the head of a human being. And then on further investigation, this same person went to identify where he found the body. And there are two people arrested in that case, and the case is still going on at court. And the deceased was unfortunately identified. He was also staying there in Mayville, but from Bizana.
Colonel, at this point in time, with the investigation ongoing, do you understand or know what the motive is behind the body parts of people being found with these people?
The motive, we cannot confirm the motive for now, but I cannot divide on the investigation because we're in a very, this is very sensitive, but I know two of them are the traditional healers. So the traditional healers, they work with witchcraft, and also they claim that they are healing people. But since there are traditional healers involved, it should be something to do with the traditional healing or witchcraft also, but we cannot confirm that.
And do you suspect that this is perhaps a syndicate in the making here?
Because we've arrested these 4 and more than 3, we're still expecting to arrest more than 2. It should be a syndicate because first of all, these traditional healers are not staying in one house. The other one are staying at Escort and the other one staying at Amangwe. And there are these 2 other suspects that are the one who's a parole and the other one. I think they are working together. So obviously it should be a syndicate. That is why we are going to arrest more than 7 people. And our investigation, we've got a very serious information that we're still following, that we are going to divulge on it once the breakthrough has been done, like once other suspects have been arrested. But as I'm talking to you now, investigating officer is not sleeping. He's working day and night following other serious information related to the same people.
Colonel, I thank you so much for that update.
Okay, thank you.
That was Colonel Tembeka Mbela. She's the spokesperson for the police in KZN. Disturbing story. We'll keep you abreast of that story, and that is why we're asking you this question of the day, of course, on your screen right now. What do you make of the men being arrested for displaying these tendencies and eating human flesh in KZN? So let's take a quick look at what you're telling us in the meantime in relation to the question. This one coming in from Magawe says, that act is simply inhuman. This has gone too far. God help us. This one from Michael Big M says, it's disgusting and absurd. Hope God will have mercy on their souls because this is pure Satanism and devil worshipping. Hashtag living in the last days. And I am Mujana says, this is not just a crime, but a satanic act. Now, those are some of your comments. Please keep them coming. We'll read them as we continue today. And, of course, we'll focus on that story. Meanwhile, Mzwanele Manyi has denied that he's fronting for the Guptas following the announcement yesterday that the Gupta-owned Oak Bay Investments has sold TV news channel ANN7 as well as the New Age newspaper to Manyi's Lottie Docs and management for 450 million rand. Now, the sale comes after the Bank of Baroda cut ties with the Gupta-owned firms, and South Africa's top 4 banks also closed the group's accounts in 2016.
Fronting is a crime, punishable 10 years in jail. I've been very involved with the drafting of the BE codes and the rules and regulations around that. So why would I be the first one to go and commit a crime? So if somebody is saying I'm fronting, that person is accusing me of committing a criminal offense. And these days, I do not take accusations lightly. People making stupid accusations like that, I'll take them to court.
Now, you have to stay tuned for the full interview with Mzwanele Manyi in the next few minutes, maybe in the next half an hour or so. Meanwhile, the Gauteng Education Department says that parents who have not yet responded to offers of placement for their children going to grades 1 and 8 in the province's schools next year are causing serious delays in the system. The department says 117,000 learners have been placed since the placement period started 3 weeks ago. The department had received 285,000 applications when the online applications closed in June. Parents who have not received any response since their applications have been urged to contact the district office. SABC News exclusively spoke to Gauteng Education MEC Mzwanele Manyi.
What happened is that we are using what we call an online registration, where parents apply using an online registration. Now we've concluded, we've given them confirmation letters to say we have applied for your child to be at this school. But parents are not accepting. And if they don't accept, it means those that are on the waiting list cannot access those particular opportunities. And this makes the vacancy list to be too long. So we're pleading with parents. We're giving them the next 7 days for them to accept, or else we'll remove them and then open the spaces to those that are on the waiting list so that they can. So we're urging each and every parent, go. We have registered, go on our online system, click acceptance, or go to the school that we've placed you and fill the necessary documents there and take the spaces. If you don't, we have no choice but to give it to the next available parents that wants those spaces.
How do these delays affect the overall administration processes that you have to work with?
Well, we've given ourselves until the end of October to conclude all these processes because we need between October and December to plan for the next academic year. That is why we're urging all parents, because we are now on the verge of opening for late registration. Those that either through to personal problems and challenges, they've relocated to Gauteng. We need to give them a second chance for them to apply as well. But we can't do that unless the parents that we've given them spaces accept those spaces. And if they don't, unfortunately, they will forfeit those spaces and have to give it to other people that need them desperately.
These kinds of issues you're dealing with, are you looking at a scenario where you're going to do things differently next year during that process?
No, we've done well, to be quite frank. Actually, next year, we're expanding it beyond the grade 1 and 8 that we've incorporated. We really believe every grade must do it. This gives us an opportunity to plan well. We'll know which areas need new schools, which areas need a conversion from a single-based language school to a multi-language school, or an area that has just been developed that we believe we need to build a new school. So we just have to continue with the trend that we're working on now.
Well, there you have it. Tsieben speaking to Mzwanele Manyi a little bit earlier. Right now, to continue the discussion on a number of issues, including Mzwanele Manyi, the poll that we're running today, let's go over to Eben.
Yeah, Elvis, you know it's been the big talking point. Of course, everyone. We saw Mzwanele Manyi saying a little bit earlier that fronting's against the law and that he will take anyone to task who says that it's fronting. Well, we put it to a poll. We've asked our viewers to vote to gauge public opinion. It's a snap poll, so it's not really a scientific process. But we got more than 200 votes in, which gives us an idea what our viewers are saying, Elvis. So we ask, Mzwanele Manyi's takeover of ANN7 and TNA is radical economic transformation or fronting? Now, nearly 80% are saying that it's fronting. So people are not believing Mr. Mzwanele Manyi at this moment. That's according to this poll. Unscientific, I must say, but it's just a snap idea of what you, our viewers, are thinking. Now, the soon-to-be owner of ANN7 and the New Age newspaper, Mzwanele Manyi, says the print and 24-hour news channel has a lot of potential to grow. Manyi says he's buying the two not based on the present, but also on the future prospects. We spoke to Mr. Manyi late yesterday.
One is buying not only the present, but the future as well. I think both the properties, the New Age and...
Are you saying there's a future for print if we start?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. There are people, that's why I still have books. That's why I still have bookstores. Exclusive books is still going very well. The psychology of people in terms of reading things is not about to change, regardless of the technology. So print, there's a future for print, without a doubt. Otherwise, everyone would be on some kind of iPad for books. You do have that as well, but that has not taken away the book smell. You know, there are booky people that want to smell the thing, so it's going to happen. And also shelf life, and there's a whole lot of psychology that has got to do with hard copies. So that is not about to disappear. Yeah, so
what about 24-hour news? ENCA's former editor has come out saying there's no way this figure checks out. People who are involved in 24-hour news say it just sounds exorbitant. I'm not in management, but if you're in this industry, our news is tough. SABC struggling. This is one of the things that's under review right now. And SABC is doing better than ANN7. ENCA doing better than both.
Yeah, look, I think this is why you need people with a vision. We are coming in as Lodi Dogs with a great vision for this business. We're going to break into new markets, not only in South Africa, but also in the continent as well. So, and we've got a lot of, the key to any business is its people. I think the kind of people that we have in both properties are genuine people, are people that are resolute, are people that have withstood a whole range of attacks and criticism and what have you. And we want to reward those people by ensuring that they keep their jobs, as it were. But at the same time, we're looking at growing the business and employing more people. We're looking for more talent. We're looking to employ more people. We are very confident that this business is going to go from strength to strength.
But Mr. Manyi, you're talking about the future. Are you saying you buy businesses based on hopes about the future, not based on profitability right now? Surely the fortunes of those two companies right now, the fortunes of the industry right now count. And do you understand why people are suspicious about 450 million rand?
No, it's people that don't understand business. The best time to buy a business is when it's not doing that well. Then you can negotiate everything. One of the things I've negotiated...
So you're saying this is a good price,
This is actually a good price, because this business is going to be the household of the continent. This business has got so much legs, it's just unbelievable. You are going to resign from SABC yourself, Francis, and come and want to join ANN7 very soon.
Okay.
This is going to be the place where everyone is going to want to be. We're going to get the best technology in the world to make sure that the fourth industrial revolution on media is actually happening right there on that stable. So indeed, new thinking, out-of-the-box thinking, all of that is going to be happening there.
Mr. Manyi, right now, a lot of journalists would say they would not like to be associated with this brand that has become very controversial. It's been called a Gupta propaganda machine. It is seen, at the very least, as highly, highly subjective. So you're saying those organizations are going to become a powerhouse?
What is going to happen? You know, I'm making a public invitation to a whole range of people. I'm inviting Rupert.
Journalists want to be seen as objective, as fair.
Listen to me. I'm inviting Rupert himself to come and be on the station to have his side of the story. You name them. I'm inviting them to be in there. This station is going to be the epitome of what media should be. It's going to be the epitome of what the press code has always been asking for. This media group is going to ensure that the issue of people having to write all kinds of on-record corrections and stuff like that is a thing of the past. Ethics, credibility, and integrity is going to be second nature in this group.
Are you a Gupta family supporter? Would you say that?
I am a supporter of the Constitution of South Africa, and the Constitution of South Africa is very clear that issues of guilt and whatever, it's very clear that people must be presumed innocent until proven guilty. As we speak here and now, you and I, Francis, know that there is no court in South Africa that has convicted Guptas of any wrongdoing, so to speak, not only in South Africa, but in the world. By the way, one of the hinges.
Do you not think there's enough evidence for South Africans to be very worried about the family and about their media interests?
Not evidence. There is enough fake news for South Africans to be worried, not evidence. The clearest sign that I was waiting for, the reason we're announcing today, I was waiting for Monday today, I was waiting for Friday to hear what the court says about the so-called 72 suspicious transactions. As we sit here and now, with all what was thought to be evidence submitted to our independent judiciary, what has happened? Judiciary, the first thing, they kicked out that fake report, and the next thing, Pravin was dismissed with costs and all that, and there's Guptas are smelling roses. So I'm sitting here now, I am very confident that I'm not dealing with outlaws.
The court affirmed that ministers cannot get involved in shutting bank accounts and things like that. So would you not agree Gordon basically got what he wanted?
No, he didn't. You see, what Gordon did there, we must be very clear.
Can I ask you, let's not go down this rabbit hole, because we're so interested in the media.
No, that's fine.
So I accepted, I also went there.
But his declaratory order was declined.
Sure. So, okay, let's move it away from the Guptas.
Yeah.
You are seen as being a supporter of President Jacob Zuma, as clearly in one firm camp in the ANC right now. If you look at your Twitter account, recent tweets, you're defending ANC decisions to go after Derek Hanekom, for example. Are you saying now, despite that stance, that very clear public stance, despite everybody knowing where you stand, you can be in charge of a very credible, very objective media house going forward? Is that what you're saying?
Let me make this clear. Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa, public invitation right here to say, come to NN7, let's hear what you have in store for South Africa if you become the president. I'm inviting Cyril Ramaphosa publicly now, so he must follow up with his people whether he's taking the invitation. I'm inviting everyone. I'm inviting Lindwe Sisulu, all others that are deemed not to be in my so-called camp. In the African National Congress, I believe in a democracy. President Zuma is duly elected. I make no apology for being supportive of him. I am, indeed, because he was elected democratically, not only by the ANC branches, but also by South Africa. I make no apologies for that. But this outfit is not a sectarian outfit. It's an outfit for everyone. So everyone is invited to come. I have no faction that I'm supporting in terms of this business. This is a business that must serve the total interest of South Africans. So everyone is invited.
Okay, so that's something that will play out in the future.
Yeah.
Right now, the price is an issue. If we can go back, this is a vendor financing agreement,
yes,
which means that the Guptas, in fact, will give you the money to buy both these organizations. Can you confirm?
The word give is incorrect. They will loan.
Okay.
Fundamental difference. I sit here now, I'm the poorest man.
Are you good for 450 million rand, and how will you pay that back?
Yes, so, in fact, I'm hoping to pay it within 5 years, by the way. That's a commitment I've made to them. Within 5 years, I should have paid this thing back. By the way, this did not come easy from my side. I have tried to borrow money from IDC. This must be on record. For 300 million to buy into a business in a listed entity. They threw me backwards and forwards for 18 months. They keep saying, bring audited financials, and then they don't make a decision, and by that time the financials are stale, then you have to bring other numbers. We did that run around. 18 months later, I had to abandon the business. So it was my strategy to say, I must get vendor financing. If people are committed to transformation, if people are committed to a transformed media diversity in South Africa, then people must put their money where their mouths are. So I say to the Guptas, I want to do this deal. I want all this property. I want everything. The only leeway I give is management, because I wanted commitment to management. So only 10% goes to management. The rest I own, so that I can give it my own flavor.
People are concerned that the Guptas are financing this deal. You are saying you will pay back. Right now, they're financing the deal. Are they not going to be involved still? You are seen to be close to the family. SABC saying this is fronting. What do you say to that?
Fronting is a crime. You see, this is, there you go again with South Africans. You see, fronting is a crime, punishable 10 years in jail. I've been very involved with the drafting of the BE codes and the rules and regulations around that. So why would I be the first one to go and commit a crime? So if somebody is saying I'm fronting, that person is accusing me of committing a criminal offense. And these days, I do not take accusations lightly. People making stupid accusations like that, I'll take them to court.
So you're saying that the Guptas will not be involved. You're going to be your own man when it comes to editorial policy, when it comes to managing these companies.
I'm the owner. I'm not the editor. So I'm looking at business development.
Correct, management,
the management is going to run with this thing. I'm not going to be micromanaging people, but I'll be growing the business. I'll be going around, I'll knock on doors. I'm going to come to government and knock and say, government, here's a black-owned entity, support. I'll go to business and say, here's a black-owned entity, support. I'll go across to the continent and say, here's a black initiative, continent, support. So my role is going to be an active shareholder in terms of business development. So I'll be knocking on doors everywhere, even in business. Business in South Africa has said that it's committed to transformation. Business must put its money where its mouth is.
All right, we're running out of time, but there are other concerns. One is that the New Age has received a lot of government funding. In the SABC hearings, there was a lot of talk about the breakfast, where government departments pay for these events. SABC was roped in, wasn't being paid. That funding was going to a Gupta-owned company. Is this going to be a tool to capture government ad spending in the future?
There must be no apologies that government must support this venture. I used to run GCIS. I know that though that kind of an allegation of Gupta's taking everything in government has always been there, I used to run GCIS. I can tell you it's a blue lie. In fact, I can name newspapers that benefit the lion's share out of government budget. And the TNA gets a small fraction of that.
So you're saying government distributes fairly? Because I think in a democratic society, that's what people would want.
In fact, it's unfair.
That they don't start channeling funds to a supportive agency, basically.
No. Government has never done that. Government has always been. In fact, the people with the lion's share of government is Times Media, for instance. Sunday Times has got serious millions out of government. Even City Press, all of them. Actually, newspaper by newspaper, media by media, they get a lot more than that stable is getting, the Gupta stable, if you want to call it that. So this notion that every money is channeled there is a blue lie. There's no such a thing. But I'm looking for an increase in that unapologetically. This entity is transformed, is black-owned, more black-owned than any other, by the way. This is the media house that is owned not only by black, but by an African in particular. So I'm looking for government unapologetically to support this venture. This is radical economic transformation. This is an example of media ownership transformation. So government must support.
Final question. For people who are saying that the numbers don't add up, that there's something very fishy about this, would you be willing to give them the figures, to show your repayment plans, to show your future projections? Will you be open and play open cards in future about advertising revenue, etc.?
You know what you're reminding me? There used to be a speak in the township to say, when you see, as jy sien 'n swart man met 'n groot kar, wat sien jy? And the answer is, jy sien 'n dief. This is the unfortunate thing in South Africa, that when you're a black person,
Are you saying I'm being unfair?
Yes, you're being unfair. A black person has always to be treated.
Let me make the point. The concerns of editors in this country.
Let me respond to the concerns.
A lot of black people involved in media, etc.
Let me respond to the concerns. It is unfortunate in South Africa that when a black person does everything, he has to be treated with suspicion. And this is a kind of transformation and decolonization that we must rid ourselves of. It cannot be that when a white person, a young white chap driving a Maserati at 25 is all normal. But a 54-year-old man that must buy a Maserati, all of a sudden is a problem. Cannot have that. That is a colonized mind. That is a mind
it's about
that
you,
is
Mr. Manyi. It's about the poor fortunes of media houses at the moment. People are struggling, so that's why they're questioning the figure.
And they must up their game. They must up their game. I think it's a valid proposition. The amount of corrections that media has to do all the time with wrong facts and so on, and stories that are not credible, that's why they're not doing well. This media house is going to be where the truth lies. It's going to be where everything is business news that are not spiced up with a lot of lies. That's where you're going to find them at NN7 and the New Age. What's happening in the political front, we're going to have serious intelligence about things that are happening. So the place to be is NN7 and the New Age. The others must close shop.
Well, we're not going to close shop just yet, Mr. Manyi, but we've put it to our viewers what they think of your interview and what they think about your venture that you're going into. Mzwanele Manyi's takeover of ANN7 and TNA is radical economic transformation or fronting. 222 of you have voted, 22 hours left. 22% are saying it's radical economic transformation. 78% are saying it's fronting. The numbers sure look scary. Michael Morabane tweets and says, congratulations to Mzwanele Manyi to take over ANN7 and the New Age. Yes, congratulations is in order. It's a wonderful event in the life, I'm sure, of Mr. Manyi. Now, Lubuyo tells us, support one another. If it was Mlungu, number one would have said he's fronting, or no one would have said he's fronting. Atini Mbena says, congrats to Jimmy B. Triple BEE fronting, says Atini. Yeah, South Africans have no chill. They have no chill in South Africa. But let's have a look at what's on social media as we continue running through this thing today. We'll start, of course, with the sensational cannibalism case in Escort, where 4 men appeared in court yesterday after one of them handed himself over to police, declaring that he was tired now of eating human flesh and wanted to go to prison. Now, police then went to their homes, investigated. More arrests are expected, as this is to be believed to be part of a larger syndicate. Hashtag cannibalism, hashtag Escort. Wow. Then, of course, we just saw the big one. Manyi is the hashtag. Mzwanele Manyi has taken over as the owner of ANN7, TNA, and the New Age franchise from the Gupta family for 450 million South African rand. Then, moving on, network provider Vodacom was fleeing the heat yesterday as some customers took to Twitter stating that their data had been stolen. Students seemed to be the most upset as they were using the internet to study and send off important documents. Yes, disappearing data. We're going to try and follow up on that one at some point. Moving abroad, the US experienced a spectacular solar eclipse yesterday. One of this nature last took place 99 years ago. This image is from NASA, and some tweeters say it should win an award. Then Donald Trump and his First Lady Melania were captured watching the eclipse. But there were many stunning images from yesterday's excitement. The hashtag eclipse. Look at this one. What a beautiful picture. Now, that takes us to, these are some of the incredible pictures in the US. Now, our picture of the day. Now, this one comes from the International Space Station. We're going to put it up for you shortly. I think it is ironically beautiful. Let's take a look at our picture of the day. Look at this. All right? It's captioned, millions of people saw the eclipse, but only 6 people saw the umbra, the moon shadow. And there you see that black mark is over the United States, right from space. That's the shadow that the moon cast right over the USA. Incredible. The irony of it all, that a dark patch hovers over America. Is that Donald Trump speaking? No, Donald Trump's not speaking to me. A comment of the day comes from Tommy, who says, school violence, eating human flesh. KZN, what is happening? Yeah, it's certainly sensational stories that are doing the rounds there at the moment. But let's go to the courts quickly. In Limpopo, a 46-year-old man is arrested for operating an illegal initiation school. He'll appear in the Messina Magistrates Court today. We'll keep you updated on this case as it's an escalating problem in South Africa. Now, let's quickly look forward to tomorrow. Of course, we'll be looking at primary school girls who become mothers. Yes, the annual school survey that is conducted on ordinary schools. It's revealed that more than 1,400 primary school girls, that's in grades 7 to 3, are pregnant. That's in the last 2 years alone. And what do you make of condoms being distributed at primary school? These are our issues for tomorrow. But today, well, it's been a little bit overtaken by Mzwanele Manyi, but human trafficking, well, it may seem like a very distant concept to you, something that gets a once-off news slot or an article in the paper, but it's taking place right under our noses. In the most recent case to surface, a South African girl was rescued from a syndicate in Malaysia after applying for a modeling competition. Now, human trafficking has been described as a statistical nightmare, but there is hope here in South Africa. The National Human Trafficking Resource Line has reached its 1-year anniversary and have aided in this fight. Now, in our Cape Town studio is the founder of the Human Trafficking Resource Line. Her name is Katie Madrao. We will talk to her after a short little break.
What guides us? What leads us forward? Is it the advice of our elders? Is it the actions of our people? Or the voices of our citizens? Your country is guided by the voices of its people, and your broadcaster is dependent on your voice to guide it. Get your copy of the SABC's editorial policy and have your say.
Now, just before the break, I told you guys that we're going to go to Cape Town to speak to the founder of the Human Trafficking Resource Line, Katie Madrao. Very good morning to you, Katie. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Now, Katie, we've been trying to do a lot of research around the statistics around human trafficking, because we get lots of reports now about women being dragged off taxi ranks, children being grabbed at schools, trying to put them in cars and all these kinds of things. From your line, what are the numbers saying? Are we reaching epidemic proportions here in South Africa?
Well, I think that's a big word to use, but I definitely think we have a grand scale problem on our hands. We have had this line operating for a year, and we've seen over 6,000 phone calls come in just a year. From those calls, we classify them according to how serious they are. And red calls, we've had 37 red calls in a year, yielding 33 rescues of victims of trafficking. So for us, a red call is when someone is calling in absolute distress. I am being trafficked, or I'm in a trafficking situation. Please help me. And working together with the Hawks and SAPS, we've actually been able to assist 33 of those into safety.
Tell us about some of those cases. How does it play out in society? We don't always know how these stories play out.
I think, you know, trafficking, they are always looking at opportunities to exploit people's vulnerability. So if you want to exploit somebody, look at what their vulnerability is. And for a vast majority of South Africans, that is job opportunities. So very many of the cases that we work with, women and men, have been offered job opportunities that are just answering a need that they have, whether it's finances to get out of a small town, whether it's an internship that helps them get experience for a job opportunity. We have seen all of these being used to lure potential victims. We've also seen modeling contracts or fake modeling contracts being offered, and nannying opportunities as well abroad we've seen come through the line.
And of course, young people are quite susceptible to this kind of thing right now. But what about younger people being trafficked? I'm talking about pre-teens. Is that a problem as well?
Definitely. I mean, I can't say we've had that many preteen cases come through the line, but you can look at the national and the global statistics, and it is a problem. I mean, if you look at the demand for child sex tourism, of course there's going to have to be a supply. So where does the supply come from? From trafficking. If you also look at our social media outlets, how easy it is to engage with the teen on social media. If you think you're an impressionable 13-year-old and someone tells you you look beautiful and, you know, they'd love to have a relationship with you or meet up with you, how difficult is it or how easy is it to actually manipulate them and win their trust via social media in order to, you know, then lure them into an opportunity that is exploitative to them?
Yeah, it's so easy to do that on social media now. What are the hot spots? Where do you get some of the most calls from then, if I have to ask that?
Well, we've actually seen the most calls coming from our major cities, so Joburg CBD, the CBD in Durban, and then in Cape Town as well. Obviously, there are some hotspot areas of recruitment around the different provinces. We've seen Milnerton in Cape Town, we've seen Kuruman and Klerksdorp are names that come up quite regularly, but it really just depends on the province that you're looking at. I also think the older the line is, the more reliable the statistics will be as we're getting more and more calls from concerned citizens and from victims themselves around the country.
And the work that Interpol does and their work with the Hawks and the police here in South Africa, that's bearing fruit with the work that you do.
Yes, it definitely is. I mean, the case that was recently of the young lady who was trafficked to Malaysia, it was fantastic to see such collaboration. We'd love to see it on a more regular basis, but I think it's fantastic to see the quick action that took place with that specific case and some cases that we've had coming up.
Just take us back to what's the latest trends with regards to trafficking. What's the imminent threat that you guys are seeing in South Africa right now?
It's definitely a job opportunity in a city that is not your own. We very, very often see young women trafficked for jobs like call centers or working in hotels, usually from Joburg to Cape Town, or the surrounding more rural areas in the Gauteng region to Cape Town. Usually the bus tickets are paid for. It's usually someone that you know, but not very well. It's more like someone I've met at the bus station before. And we're usually seeing stories that are playing out that way. Usually when the person arrives in Cape Town or Joburg, depending on where they're being trafficked to, they are usually shown a good time for a weekend or a day or two. And then this job that they've promised just doesn't eventuate. And they start asking questions, what's happening? Where is the job? And it lands up then being, no, actually you need to go stand on the street or you need to work as a prostitute in order to pay back the money that you owe me. So I would just say to anybody, be very cautious of offhand job opportunities that you are offered. In fact, any job opportunity that you are offered, do the proper research, do the thorough research. I'm pretty sure the minister said it in his statement recently, you know, verify, talk to adults, do your research before you just take any opportunities to actually protect yourself from impending doom, if you want to say.
What are the warning signs that parents should be on the lookout for, and what should they do if they have suspicions?
Parents or adults alike, you know, or children alike, I think any kind of travel or job opportunity, you need to do your research. So look at the website. Is it legitimate? What email address are the opportunities coming from? Is it an @Yahoo or an @Gmail, or is it coming from a legitimate domain? Is there a landline? Can you speak to somebody who's done this opportunity before, who's done this job before, and actually get first-hand information? You know, if I were to travel to Vietnam to be a teacher, I would speak to someone who'd worked with a specific agency, for example, and try and get first-hand information on what this job actually yields. I would also say to parents, be honest with your teens. You know, social media, WhatsApp, Mixit, all of those make it very easy for teens to interact with people who they know a picture of, but you don't know if that picture is a true reflection of who is actually sending them text messages and messages. So be honest with your teenagers about online safety, and them being able to share with you what is actually going on in their world, keeping them safe from predators who do scour Facebook and WhatsApp in order to lure our younger generation.
Katie, thank you very much for joining us, and congratulations on the anniversary of the line. You guys have saved many lives.
Thank you very much. It's such an honor to be here this morning.
Great stuff. That's Katie Mildra, of course, talking about the National Human Trafficking Resource Line. If you have any suspicions, go there and make your voice heard. That's how we save our children and even our adults. Now, we've been asking you questions and running your polls, the like, of course. Let's just have a look at the poll. The big story, of course, is Mzwanele Manyi. He told me he's no longer Jimmy. He's been decolonized himself. So Mzwanele Manyi's takeover of ANN7 and TNA is 251 votes say, 77% are saying fronting, 23% are saying it's radical economic transformation. You guys are tweeting us. Not Marvin Gaye says to us, over 400 million is a lot of money. Where did he get it? This is fronting at its best. The Guptas are trying to hide from the spotlight. Yeah, there's a lot of this kind of sentiment doing the rounds on social media today. Depansu tells us, lapdog used as a front. Ooh, that's tough. That's a tough one. Libuya says, support one another. If it was Mlungu, no one would have said he is fronting. Yes, Baba. Atini says, congrats to Jimmy. Triple BEE fronting. Ish. South Africans are tough. Tough indeed. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at the question we ask you, because the disturbing story today, of course, is the one that deals with the eating of human flesh. There's a syndicate eating human body parts, legs, arms. The one guy said he was tired of eating human beings, so the police must lock him up now. This is in Escort, in KwaZulu-Natal. You guys are tweeting us. Michael, the Big M, says to us, it's disgusting and absurd. I hope that God will have mercy on their souls, because this is pure Satanism and devil worshipping. We are living in the last days, he says. I am Mojana says to us, this is not a crime, but a satanic act. Then Onuke Christian says, hope their capacity serve right. Talk about their mental capacity, I'm sure, Onuke. That is what it is. Now, let's take a quick look at the front pages around the world. We'll start in New York, where the New York Times reports that a crash involving a destroyer, the John S. McCain near Singapore, raises safety questions 2 months after a similar collision killed 7 people. Then, the Miami Herald in Florida says less than a week after the controversial strategist Steve Bannon left the White House, President Donald Trump is already signaling a shift towards a more traditional Republican foreign policy. Then, in Israel, the Jerusalem Post reports that the chief rabbinate maintained in a position statement in the High Court of Justice yesterday that the court has no authority to intervene on the issue of prayer rights for progressive Jews at the Western Wall, describing the issue as an intra-religious struggle in which the court lacks competence and jurisdiction. Yes, always these issues. Now, we're talking human trafficking now. Let's go over to Ovis to speak to a survivor.
Imagine your daughter, sister, girlfriend, wife, even yourself being snatched, drugged, waking up at an unknown place, forced into life of prostitution with little room to escape. Human trafficking is real. It's a highly sophisticated crime and doesn't only take place late at night or in dangerous places. It takes place in busy cities, outside schools and malls, and even online. Today, we are joined by a survivor whose life story she is sharing with us to help others. Joining us now from Cape Town studios is Embrace Dignity's Program Associate for Survivor Initiative, Miki Meji. A very good morning to you, Miki, and welcome. Miki, I'm not too sure if you can hear me, but I can't hear you this side. First and foremost, just tell us your story. Well, it seems like we haven't got the sound there from Miki. Unfortunately, we're going to see if we can rectify it and do that a little bit later for you. But let's now go over to Eben and Kendall for your sports focus.
Yeah, thanks, Elvis. We'll try and speak to Miki shortly. It'll be interesting to get that kind of account. It's a very familiar development here in South Africa. But in our sports focus this morning, Kendall is here, and of course Wayne Rooney scored his 200th Premier League goal in Everton's 1-1 draw at City last night, putting on a display which shows his career is far from over. But Kendall is not a fan.
Wow, how could you out me on international TV like that? But I'm not a fan of Wayne Rooney. He's never really excited me in terms of how he plays. Having said that, though, what he does do is he does stand out as a player who does what his club needs him to do. He scored early in the year. We remember that he went past Sir Bobby Charlton's 250 goals he scored for Manchester United. Something phenomenal. Manchester United, a massive club in its own right, and he's gone and scored the most goals for Manchester United. And here, he's scoring against Manchester City for Everton, his boyhood club, and he's scoring 200 goals in the EPL.
I loved his tweet that he put out after the game. Of course, when he ran past, he celebrated in front of the City fans. Yes. And of course, you know, afterwards he said, this was for the red half of Manchester. But then he tweeted a picture afterwards. He tweeted a picture of the City fans while he's running across celebrating. Yes. And he put the caption at the top. He said, nice to see a few familiar faces with a laughing icon. Obviously putting the boot in because he scored his 50th and his 150th goal against City. So
yeah, you know
what?
You know what? Wayne Rooney can stand up and say, "Look, I've done it. I've done it again to Manchester City." Because apparently they were jeering him throughout the match. You know, Manchester City were jeering him because of his Manchester United ties. He played for what, 13, 14 seasons? For Manchester United. So basically, most people know him as a Red Devil. But there he is playing for the Toffees, his boyhood club, and doing the deed, making Koeman, his coach, happy.
So put aside bring your professionalism out. 2 games in two goals in 2 games. 100%. You think he's going to be the guy to lead Everton forward this season?
I think what he does bring is he brings a lot of chutzpah. Because he carries
big match temperament.
Big match temperament, and he's also a seasoned campaigner. And I think a lot of the youngsters look up to Wayne Rooney for what he's done for the club as well as for England, the national side.
Thank you very much, Kendall. Kendall and myself will be back with you at the top of the hour. I think Wayne Rooney is going to play really well this season. A big match player, if ever there was one in England. 200 goals in a very select club. Only Alan Shearer has more. We're going to take a break. See you at 10.
He's still going. He pops it up with Jacob Peterson. Easy as that. What a response it is from the Cheetahs. Brilliant score.
Imran Tahir produced a superb performance with the ball. The Proteas leg spinner put his side in the driving seat, scalping 3 wickets for just 18 runs.
Gifton Gope is flying toward third, and he is there with a triple, his first in the big leagues.
It is a Ferrari front row lockout, unless Hamilton can get on pole, and he can't. Ferrari, for the first time since France in 2008, have locked out the front row.
For all your sports news, keep it locked to Sports Live every Saturday and Sunday from 20:30.
Hello and a warm welcome to PM News, and we're broadcasting live from Johannesburg.
4 decades later, the family is still seeking closure.
We need the truth, and the truth must be told.
Children often go undiagnosed because they are hidden away. About 1 million people in South Africa live with autism.
Creative recycling at play.
Mosaic has been around forever. I just had to find a new, fresh way to put, and a new spin to put on it. So I decided, why not recycled cans?
Stay tuned to PM News for all your news updates every Saturday and Sunday from 1500 hours.
We're shooting a campaign. We're telling genuine stories from real people that have been affected by the SABC. It's also interesting to get the backstory in terms of their dreams to be on screen and eventually getting the pleasure to do that. And understanding that they're communicating on a platform that speaks to millions of people. It speaks to how the SABC can fulfill its mandate.
The SABC represents the opportunity for so many young South Africans, for old South Africans, to be able to look at the world that they may not experience any other way.
People should continue to pay their TV license because it allows the SABC to bring quality programming.
The TV license is really part of the lifeblood of the channel and the corporation.
When you're listening to your favorite jams, you're listening to your favorite radio DJ, you must know that you made it possible by paying your TV license.
It's such a holistic process that goes into TV licenses. It's not only one part where we say South Africans have to pay for TV licenses. You pay a TV license because you get so much value out of it, and that's the content that you get every single day on the SABC platforms.
I have been in the film industry now for 51 years. I am quite satisfied with the evolution of television now, that you have got a lot of actors and you have got a lot of crew members, which will also play part of paying our licenses, because I think it's proper.
Welcome back, everybody. Very good morning to you. Just got 10 o'clock Central African time here on 404 SABC News Newsroom. I'm with Kendall. Great start to the morning.
Great start to the morning, but an incredibly gory subject that we're dealing with today, cannibalism. It's actually, it's fascinating at the same time, it's horrifying.
Just talking to our colleagues, it's a kind of thing that freaks people out completely. Cannibalistic tendencies. We've seen 4 men arrested in court, really, in escort in KwaZulu-Natal.
Yes, absolutely. And we just want to find out from you, what are your views on this? So, I mean, we've just found out that there are men that eat human flesh in escort KwaZulu-Natal. What are your views on that matter?
And they're part of a wider syndicate that the police are now investigating. I want to find the other members. JP tweets us, he says, isn't escort the meat capital of South Africa? I'm glad I'm a vegetarian.
You had to take it there, JP.
Yeah.
Debbie McKenzie they say it tastes like pork.
Yeah, Debbie. Oh. That's not good, Debbie. That's not good. Guys, keep it serious. It's a very serious issue in the end. Of course, you saw the interview a little bit earlier with Mzwanele Manyi, who has now taken over ANN7 and TNA, the newspaper group.
Yep.
Interesting that on our poll, he's not getting a lot of support.
No, he's not. I mean, when I last looked at it, some 3/4 of our respondents, of the 277 votes, 77% were saying, you know what, the takeover ANN7 and TNA by Mzwanele Manyi is a front.
Yeah, that's tough, actually. It's very tough. Oh, you saw him pleading with people to support this government, must support this initiative, and so forth. It's a black-owned business, he says. It's radical economic transformation in its finest form. This one from Rambo Maleka says to us, fronting, Manyi was vocal about the Guptas. The Guptas know they bought that by illegal money they got from corrupt politicians.
And TNA, Patrick Rat says, I think they're using Manyi as a person who's in front. Well, they're not.
Yeah, that's a different way of putting it. That's a different way of putting it. Of course, we're talking about Wayne Rooney today. Did, well, what very few others have done. He scored his 200th EPL goal last night, and we know that you guys watch EPL football, not just in South Africa, but all over the continent. It's the #1 sport of choice.
100%, and that's why I want to find out from you. You will have an opinion on this, we're sure. Do you think that Wayne Rooney is an all-time great of the English Premier League after what he's just managed to do?
Well, only Aaron Shearer has scored more goals, and Shearer is revered as the greatest of all time. That striker that is. Michael says, one of the greatest is how I would sum it up, being a joint top goal scorer of all time alongside Alan Shearer is priceless. History won't forget him. No, Shearer's got 249 goals, I think. So Rooney's still got some way to go, or 260, something like that.
That's right, yes, 260. And Shearer did say, congratulations, been lonely in this club. Welcome to the club, he said to Rooney. Jamila said he could be the next Beckham, who knows? Let's just hope he plays fair and considers his teammates, not only himself.
No, Beckham is not in the same class, unfortunately. Anyhow, that's my view. Time for us to take a look at our top stories. KZN police urges those who have missing family members to come forward as post-mortems for human body parts case will be done today. New ANN7 and New Age newspaper owner Mzwanele Manyi denies allegations that he's fronting for the Guptas. And the Gauteng Education Department urges parents to respond to placement offers for their children's school enrollments. Those are the top stories right now. Let's go over to Kendall for sport.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Good morning to you. Quite a lot happening on the sports front. Let's get right to it, shall we?
They're all professionals. They've all travelled there, so we know what to do and how to manage it to be fresh for the match.
The Springboks have no qualms about travelling to Argentina just 2 days before their rugby championship match in Salta.
We have a soldier here who will go to battle for South Africa.
Preparing experience of a youthful exuberance, Stuart Baxter recalls 34-year-old Morgan Gould to face Cape Verde in their 2018 World Cup qualifier next month.
200th goal in the Premier League.
And Wayne Rooney becomes only the second player after Alan Shearer in the English Premier League to score 200 goals as Everton hold Manchester City to a 1-0 draw at the Etihad.
Great finish from Rooney. It's near enough right into him, but the way he deals with it is fantastic.
Great stuff there by Wayne Rooney, playing for his boyhood club, the Toffees, Everton. All this and more later on in the Sports Bulletin. I'll also be chatting to an author of a very interesting book. Make sure you come back at 10:40, but do stay with Eben as he's got the news.
Yeah, thank you, Kendall. Very good morning once again. Now, police in KwaZulu-Natal have given the assurance that more arrests are imminent in relation to a human body parts syndicate in escort on the province's Midlands. 4 men have now been arrested and they appeared in the local magistrate's court yesterday. One of the 4 suspects confessed to cannibalism.
The suspect led police to a house where different female body parts were found. The other 3 suspects include 2 traditional healers and a recently freed ex-convict. Fresh from a 15-year jail sentence, he's now collecting human legs within the syndicate. Outside court, an angry crowd demanded that the perpetrators be refused bail. Amongst them, 40-year-old Hleziphi Vilakazi, who waited anxiously, hoping to find closure. She says she lost her 8-year-old nephew, whose body had been mutilated and was missing some body parts.
2015. In 2015, my sister's son and his friend went missing after they were last seen playing outside. We reported them missing. The police searched for them for a week and their bodies were found mutilated. So I came here to see if I can identify one of the suspects.
All 4 suspects have been denied bail as investigations continue.
According to the investigating officer, there are more arrests that are going to be effected and soon, because their investigation is close to the end and there's evidence that they have.
The case has been postponed to next Monday for a formal bail application. Sibonga Gongambata, SABC News, Escort.
Now, it's a story that has people sitting up. A little bit earlier, we spoke to the KwaZulu-Natal police spokesperson, Colonel Thembeka Mbele, on the latest with regards to this, and this is what she said.
Today at 11 o'clock, there will be a post-mortem at the mortuary, and also the team from the National Office from Forensic have arrived, so that they'll be also there in the post-mortem, and then the blood samples have to be taken, with tissues from the deceased parts, they have to be taken, and also to confirm who the person is. But then we request the community from the escort area to please come forward to the police station as soon as possible, just before 11. And then they're going to get the directives from there so that the samples. But we are calling upon the community members, the relatives of the people who went missing and they've reported them or they're not even reported them, so that the samples will also be taken from them to identify the deceased. Because for now, we're not sure whether these body parts are for one person. So the samples are going to determine that during the postmortem. Also in the postmortem, the experts from National Office are going to reconstruct the body also that is going to identify whether it's a board of one person with different people.
Now, those family members that need to come forward of some of their missing family members, where should they go and how do they get in touch with you?
They should go to the Escort police station, then they're going to get directives from there. The station, they must mention that we said, because the IO is requesting that, so that if they're at Escort, because as I'm here, I do not know where the mortuary is. But if they are at Escort police station, then the police, they are going to take them to the mortuary, or if they've got transport, they're going to direct them to the mortuary, and they're going to meet with the investigating officer there.
Now, with regards to the arrest, how many arrests are still pending or outstanding, and do you expect more to be arrested?
Yeah, we expect more to be arrested. The investigation, and we're in a very, coming to the end of investigation for now. For these other suspects that has to be arrested, but arrest is imminent because we've got a good evidence against them. We only have to get them.
Is this the first time that you have found, as the police, people that either have cannibalistic tendencies or people smuggling with body parts?
Although it's not the first time, but this is the first huge incident. But you remember last month, or towards the end of last month, there was a person who was arrested here in Durban CBD, found with the head of a human being. And then on further investigation, this same person went to identify where he found the body. And there are two people arrested in that case, and the case is still going on at court. And the deceased was unfortunately identified. He was also staying there in Mayville, but from Bizana.
Colonel, at this point in time, with the investigation ongoing, do you understand or know what the motive is behind the body parts of people being found with these people?
The motive, we cannot confirm the motive for now, but I cannot divide on the investigation because we're in a very, this is very sensitive, but I know we two of them are the traditional healers. So the traditional healers, they work with witchcraft, and also they claim that they are healing people. But since there are traditional healers involved, it should be something to do with the traditional healing or witchcraft also, but we cannot confirm that.
And do you suspect that this is perhaps a syndicate in the making here?
Because we've arrested these four and more than three, we're still expecting to arrest more than two. It should be a syndicate because first of all, these traditional healers are not staying in one house. The other one are staying at Escort and the other one staying at Amangwe. And there are these two other suspects that are the one who's a parolee and the other one. I think they are working together. So obviously it should be a syndicate. That is why we are going to arrest more than 7 people. And our investigation, we've got a very serious information that we're still following, that we are going to divide on it once the breakthrough has been done, like once other suspects have been arrested. But as I'm talking to you now, investigating officer is not sleeping. He's working day and night following other serious information related to the same people.
Well, just apologies for the birds in the background there. It seems as if there was a parrot on the line with us while we did that interview a little bit earlier. Of course, we're asking you a question on this story that has many around South Africa sitting up. Cannibalism, yes. What are your views on men eating human flesh in Escort? That's in KwaZulu-Natal. Now, you guys have been tweeting us quite a bit with regards to this question. Let's have a look at some of your latest tweets. Mzwanele Manyi says to us, this is insanity. They must rot in jail. Of course, 4 men have been arrested. Selo Motati says to us, it's satanic. It's just downright evil. Ubu Satani in jail. What does that mean? This one from Not Marvin Gaye. It's a shocker, really. Pure evil. This is why we need the death penalty. If they go to jail, they might kill and eat fellow prisoners. This one from Jamila. This could be an act of devil worshipping or even Satanism. These men are possibly doing this to appease their demonic god. Yes, Jamila. All will be revealed in due course. You heard the police are saying they are on the trail of a syndicate that's operating in KwaZulu-Natal, and with these arrests, they expect more arrests to follow. Now, let's go back to our theme that we were talking about a little bit earlier. We were dealing with human trafficking. Now, you saw that there's an increase according to the hotline, but imagine your sister, your daughter, or even your girlfriend, even yourself being snatched, drugged, and waking up in an unknown place, forced into a life of prostitution with little room to escape. Human trafficking is a highly sophisticated crime and doesn't only take place late at night or in dangerous places. It takes place in mostly busy cities, outside schools and malls, or even online these days. Now, we are joined by somebody who helps others with this crime. In our Cape Town studio is Embrace Dignity's Program Associate for their Survivor Initiative, Mzwanele Manyi. Very good morning to you, Mickey. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Now, Mickey, from the research that you guys are doing at Embrace Dignity, what would you say? Is this a problem that is getting worse in South Africa?
Yes, human trafficking is happening as of even now. There is a girl or a woman being trafficked, or even a young man as well. But we work at Embrace Dignity with survivors of prostitution and as well as some survivors of human trafficking. The thing is, when it comes to trafficking, it happens in various ways. Most of the women, because we focus on advocacy for changing the law on prostitution, most women we've come across were actually trafficked into prostitution from at an early age, in the sense that somebody whom they would know would say to them from the village in the Eastern Cape or from the rural outskirts to say there is a job in Cape Town, or there is an opportunity, a job opportunity in Cape Town. Come and the bus ticket will be paid for, and once they get here, it is only then that they find out that they need to be in prosecution.
Why is it so difficult for the survivors to escape the conditions that they are in?
Perpetrators of human trafficking target vulnerable people, vulnerable and needy people. So in the scenario that I've just shared with you, it would happen that a person was in actual fact very needy. So once they get here, even though they are here under false pretenses for something else, and they find out that they are now here for prostitution, the mere fact that that is able to put food on the table for them makes it difficult for them to come. But I would also like to mention that 2 weeks ago I was reading on the Drum magazine, even when survivors of trafficking have come forward, they tend to be associated with other illegal activities, because some people are trafficked to be smuggling drugs or to be selling drugs. Some people are trafficked to be doing prostitution. And once they tell the police that they have been trafficked, the police just seem to brush it off as some sort of a getaway from their crime, the criminal activity of either selling drugs or either being involved in prostitution.
How difficult is it for victims of trafficking to then reintegrate back into family life and normal life?
It takes a while. It just depends on the individuals and the kind of support that people have around them. There aren't many organizations that are working on the issue around human trafficking. So the resources there we lack, but it takes a while, because some people have been, they were trafficked more than 10 years ago. So when they need to get back, maybe as kids at the time, maybe they were 14, 15, and they are now, a woman, and they need to come back, and they've lost quite a bit of their time of their life.
What would you say to families that have missing children that suspect that they've been trafficked? What recourse do you think they have, and what action should they take?
Right now, it is to alert the police, which is when they know that there's a report of a missing person, but also just go around in the hotspots where these activities are happening. And another thing just to look out for is for vague, Facebook or other social network profiles that tend to just approach people, young women, and tell them all sorts of good things that they need to hear. Yeah, but those families shouldn't just lose hope, because people have been found even after 10, 15 years of being trafficked.
Now, a lot of the stories we hear, of course, the high-profile ones are like the one in KwaZulu-Natal. A woman ended up in a hospital in Nigeria, and that's where she was found. But most of the trafficking cases are happening inside the borders of South Africa. Am I right?
Yes, hence I was saying earlier on, it's, I mean, from the angle that we are looking at on prosecution, and which we believe quite feeds human trafficking, because if there is a demand for younger girls in prosecution, then the perpetrators of human trafficking will be targeting younger girls. But like I was saying, is that and even the person that you spoke to earlier on, Mari, she did mention that it's usually somebody that is known to the family, or even known to the person that is being trafficked as well, to the victims of trafficking. And it happens in the borders, because it would usually it's usually from the rural areas of South Africa into the bigger cities, where people are promised a lot of greener pastures to take them away from their poverty-stricken lives in the villages.
In conclusion, you've got a campaign called Listen to Survivors, hashtag Listen to Survivors. Just tell us about this campaign and how is it going to help?
Okay, the campaign of hashtag Listen to Survivors is survivors of prosecution as well as human trafficking sharing their stories, because we have noticed recently that there's a lot of conversations that are going on around about we are currently as a country talking about prosecution and what law to take in order for us to tackle the issue around prosecution and the problems that it comes with. So the hashtag Listen to Survivors is stories of survivors, because survivors feel that they are not being listened to, in the sense that all interventions, it's what people are thinking, and it's what academics are saying that they've found scientifically, but nobody ever cares to listen to survivors and to find out what survivors actually need for them to be integrated back into society after surviving prostitution and sometimes also human trafficking.
Mickey, thank you very much for joining us today. That's Mickey Meji coming to us live from our studios in Cape Town, Parliament to be exact. She's Embrace Dignity's Program Associate for Survivor Initiatives, and she talks to us about how easy it is to fall into the trap of human trafficking these days. And it's very difficult to get out. Time for us to take a little break. You're watching Newsroom here on SABC News. Welcome back. You're watching Newsroom on SABC News. Time for us to go to Parliament now to find out, well, what the future candidates for the SABC board, what they will look like. Some of them are, well, giving submissions on themselves.
Process C Yeah, in fact, it's a finalization. It's the endorsement of the report of the nominated candidates. Before we go to process D, you'll notice that it then detours to C1, C2, and C3. These are the processes that are entailing, for instance, the public participation process, which would mean that we have to at least enable people, as was resolved by the committee, to comment on the shortlisted 36 names, which will be posted on the Parliament website for the purpose. Concurrent to that would be the Parliament HR's processes that include the vetting and the qualifications verification process. Failing which, if there's no conclusiveness about some candidates on that, the committee will have to go back to process C, which is now deliberating on whichever individuals that there's contestations around. Process D would be the conducting of interviews, which I'll talk to more in detail in the following slides. And then, of course, process E would be the resolution by the committee and the report to say the 12 SABC non-executive members have been appointed and rather will be seconded to National Assembly. Process F is the adoption of the 12 names that were submitted by the committee. Now, I want to zoom in a bit in the shortlisting process, and you'll notice at the bottom I've put maximum 2 weeks parallel processes, to meaning that should there be candidates, for instance, that have international qualifications that need to be verified, unfortunately, it's not a process that we can shortchange for that manner. So the shortlisting basically will include a few processes. It's the qualification verification check process, the stake security consultation process, it's the nominee logistics process, which is a more support process, internal process, where we consult with the nominees, we call them, we send them forms, and arrange for the interviews. So it's a very cumbersome process in itself. And the last in that is of course, preparations for the interviews, which would also include those things, those type of logistics. It's safe to say, though, that we have allocated a week, which is the 23rd to the 29th of August, for this entire process, shortlisting process, and the process that are bound by it. Yeah, so in short, this is more of a high-level one, but still saying the same thing, that we still need to go through this shortlisting process before we can go past it. Now, we had a sort of a time plan attached to it, and as such, the time plan starts today, with being the 22nd, with the shortlisting, and we allow that 1 week for the entire shortlisting processes, that sub-process that I've spoken to. 30th to the 1st September would be the interviews. That's from Wednesday to Friday. So, like I said, if we go at a rate of 12 interviewees per day, we shouldn't have a problem to complete the interviews. And then on the 4th of September will be the final deliberations on the 12 candidates. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, 5th September is our target date for National Assembly adoption of the 12 nominees. And the last slide here is really an activity plan that outlines, the expected outcomes, for instance, in terms of what we need to achieve. So I won't delve too much into it. I thank you, Chair. Unless if the Chair would like me to continue with the profiling of the qualifications.
Hold on that one. Is it circulated? No, the other part. It's not, no? Okay. There is, we were categorizing candidates. Is it there? Candidates per their expertise. Just lump those who are finance. Yes. So, do we do that now? No. Let's engage on this one. because that one just shows us what we have in those 363 in terms of areas of expertise. That's the presentation, members. Anything on the roadmap that is just presented? I think the biggest thing is that we must meet the deadlines under pressure. Okay, maybe in the meantime, let's present if members don't have that report, I don't think it will make sense. Let's wait until, let's look at the presented approach that we are going to take. Honorable Tsedi.
I appreciate the roadmap, Chair. Just one aspect on the publishing of the 36 names.
And please tell us the page. I know you're very bad on that.
Looking at the activity plan, I missed the dates for the publishing of the 36 names. Second, there's a sheet which talks to the activity plan. I don't remember what page is it.
Anything else, members? Can we have that list? I'm trying to call you to order because this is a Women's Month, so women must behave. Women must behave. This is their month. That's the one pager that talks to what we have in the 363. Do you want to comment on this, or we just go for shortlisting? It can just help us. Honorable Tolashe.
Much as there isn't much that we can do about it, if we could have been able to have evaluated the sitting interim board just to double check where are we short and so on, but we couldn't do that, unfortunately. But it was going to be nice if we could have been able to do that, because I remember in the last committee report, when the interim board was reporting and the minister was emphasizing the fact that they needed to be reinforced by finance and so on, financial gurus, but that we could not be able to evaluate.
I'm worried about those two men disturbing Honorable van der Merwe there. Mr. Kalako and Mr. Ndlozi are disturbing Honorable van der Merwe. So you are protected. Yeah, I think we are now at a point where we need to listen to members. What are their preferences? Is it preferences? But whatever we'll have to, at the end, have 36. Even if we're 50, but at the end we must emerge with 36 by 8 o'clock this evening. Honorable Doze?
No, I wanted to say that when a person raises a name, say the number, so that we are able to, let's use that reference of numbers. We are on one page in that regard. I'm ready if you don't mind.
If those who are ready can just raise their hand. Honorable Kalako. Where is my short list?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, yeah, I agree with the mentioning numbers. It is going to help, especially after going through those thick CVs. Firstly, Chair, I want to propose that the 5 names, because I've seen they are all here, of the interim board. Those names, we accept them as part of the names which will form the 36. So, so I won't go into them because we know them already. We're working with them, and fortunately, they have all applied. So, the names, Chair, I will add. Sure, the colleagues will add also here.
Before you proceed, no, it's green when mine is on, is red. It becomes green, yours becomes green. Before, I think Honorable Kalago is saying, in this very committee we have been saying, can you switch off yours, Chief? We have been saying this 5-member team, interim board, has over these few months did a wonderful job. And therefore, it's his view that we agree with the 5, all of them. So that don't go back there to be in the short list of 36. I thought I must raise that because I think all of us, but members will say themselves when their time comes of the 5. Continue, Honorable Kalago.
Whilst
he's
Honorable
preparing.
Kalako is
Okay.
preparing.
After her, just get ready.
Can I just be clear about how we're going to do this? So will each party or each member be allowed the opportunity to give their list and motivate, or are we just giving names?
Are you on that, Honorable van der Merwe? Yes.
Chairperson, may I make a suggestion? Why does each member not give the numbers in terms of what they are proposing? Because then the researchers or the committee assistants, for example, if all of us are agreeing on the 5 from the interim board, they will have the most nominations. So you'll have one person having 10 nominations, for example. Then if there's a discussion in terms of those, say, for example, only one person got 1 nomination to be shortlisted, then the person who nominated that person can motivate for that person. Because, for example, with the Commission for Gender Equality, what we did was we all gave our numbers of people. Then, for example, if you've got 30 people at the top all coming out with the same type of numbers, then if you feel strongly about a person that only got 1 nomination and you nominated that person, then you will actually motivate why you feel that person should make the list of 36. So I think once every person gives their numbers, for example, if we're all in agreement with the 5 interim board members, of course they will get the most nominations, so they're already the first 5. Then there might be quite a few commonalities in terms of other numbers, so they will then slot in the next positions. And then maybe you'll get a few people who didn't get a lot of nominations, and then we'll motivate for those people, if I may suggest that.
I think that process is fine at a later stage. I think now let's allow, because it's parties, let's allow Honorable Kalako. We'll come to your suggestion later. Let's have parties raising their names, because there will be more than 36 anyway, and then we come back to sifting and motivating that. Yes, Honorable Kalako.
Chair, from us, the African National Congress, the names which we want to put forward, firstly is number, yes, number 2, Mrs. Nomvuyo Baki. Number 2. What is this number sometimes? We don't want that. Number 46, Tony Khorokwe. Number 22, Mr. Don Earp, that's E-A-R-P. Earp, yes, Don Earp. Number 37.
Number 22 is a Mr. or a female?
It's a Mr. Right, but it's a female.
Color, female, but it's written Mr.
Yeah, it's written Mr. Yeah.
So which is it?
Number 37, Chair, Jan Milok Hlongwane.
Number 37.
Number 43, Miss Rachel Kalidas. Number 47, Makosazana Kanyile.
47.
Yes. Number 57, Miss Yake Kwinana. Number 58, Mr. Ronald Ozilamula.
51?
58. Number 89, Advocate Mthunzi William Mahlangu.
81. What number?
That's 81.
81?
Yes.
This goes slowly, huh?
Yes, slowly. Number 103, Advocate Makondele Mativa. 103.
You don't know these people. You don't know.
103.
Now, those were live visuals from Parliament on the Communications Portfolio Committee going through the names of the SABC board nominees. Exciting days that we definitely live in. Now, time for a little bit of sport, where we talk a little bit about how the Springbok management team believes strongly that the travel plans laid out for the team traveling to Argentina for their test match in Salta are solid and will not prejudice the Springboks' preparations for the all-important test in the northwest of the fiercely patriotic rugby nation. The Springboks only leave for Argentina on Wednesday.
It is a confident Springbok side going on tour after beating Argentina 37-15 in Port Elizabeth on Saturday. But playing in Argentina will be a far bigger challenge. The match will be followed by even more travelling as the Boks travel to Australia and New Zealand for matches against the Wallabies and the All Blacks on the 9th and the 16th of next month. But a plan is in place.
There's a 6-hour difference, so our thing, first of all, is we don't sleep too much on the plane on the way there. So we will try and just have little naps. So by the time we get there at 11 o'clock in Buenos Aires, we will then go sleep because we'll be tired. And the next morning, get up. Then we fly to Salta, and then we have a session that afternoon.
Argentina at home is a different proposition. Last year, the Pumas beat the Boks 26-24 in Salta.
The Argentinians are a very proud nation, and they're not going to take this past weekend lightly, and especially going back home, playing in front of their home crowd. They're going to be very physical, and they're going to want to prove a point. And all we can do is stick to what we do and focus on our own job and not focus on them.
The Boks will also don the red jersey in this match to mark the 25th anniversary of rugby unity in South Africa. Mzwanele Manyi, SABC News, Port Elizabeth.
So the Springboks seem to be on the verge of truly turning the corner of a truly horrid chapter in their history. In the recent past, losses to Wales, Japan, Ireland, Argentina typified Hanneke Meyer's reign. Alistair Coetzee did not start any better, making helter-skelter selections and failing to instill any confidence in his coaching style. It all seems to have changed for the better in Coetzee's second year in charge, what with the home series whitewash against the French and the thumping of Argentina in their very first rugby championship match of the season. Now, the backdrop to all of this, though, has been transformation and how it plays out in the rugby sphere. Joining me to talk about this is author of a book that talks to all of this, Heinrich Weinhardt. Even before it became known as Transformation, you wrote a book about the matter. Good morning. Thank you very much for coming through.
Kendall, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Heinrich, before we go into the book that you've written on the matter, let's talk a little bit about the Springboks and how they performed over the weekend. You are an avid follower of rugby and have been for most of your life. Mm-hmm. Tell us about your take, in a minute or less, of what transpired on Saturday.
I think what one sees is a team that are playing, if I can use rugby language, for each other. So in the past, what seemed to be the case was a lot of individualism. It was almost like players were playing to prove that they belonged in the team, that their selection was justified. Now it seems to be a case of them playing for each other, and one should add, playing for the coach.
Very interesting that, because obviously the results spoke for themselves, and even like going a little further back, or the series against France, it was exactly that. That kept coming out. They're playing for each other. They're playing as a unit. They've got a system they're all adhering to. Is that what you felt as well?
Yeah, and I think it has a lot to do with the management style. Alistair Coetzee is a more composed leader if you compare him to the almost sort of emotional reactions that you used to see from Heinrich Meyer. Often people see that as a weakness, but I think in this case you can really see how it's reaping rewards. Of course, when you talk about France and when you talk about Argentina, you're not talking about Australia and you're not talking about the All Blacks. But I think we should celebrate the victories, because people would be very critical if it didn't go this way.
No, well said. Now, let's talk a little bit about the transformation itself. Would you say the Springboks, in this day and age, 2017, August 2017, are the Springboks transformed?
We have come a very long way. I think we have made lots of progress. it remains unfortunate that there's a need for quotas, that there's a need for a 50-50 target, 50 white, 50 black target by 2019. But we're all familiar with the history of rugby in this country, where very talented black players were denied the opportunity to play for the national team. The one exception was Errol Tobias, about whom I wrote this book. And in this book, you see how difficult it was for him then, and how it remains difficult for black players in that setup to assert themselves, if you like, because the assumption with a lot of people, unfortunately, is always, first and foremost, that when you're black, you don't really belong there until you have proven yourself. On the white side, it's a more easier entrance into the box setup.
Well, let's talk about the book. You've got it with us, Bursting Through the Half Cap, a story about Errol Tobias, the very first black fly half to play for the Springboks.
Very first black player. Yes, and unfortunately he was selected in a time when a lot of people thought he shouldn't play. He took the decision to take the opportunity, and even today he's still called a traitor by some people. Others see him as a trailblazer, because once he got onto the field, he disproved the notion that black players were not good enough.
Let's contextualize a little bit about the person we're talking about. He plied his trade as a rugby player in the 80s. In the shadow of the great Nas Botha, the great kicker who's done immense stuff for the Northern Transvaal as well as for the Springboks of his day. He's currently a pundit on TV, and we all see him every weekend when there's rugby. Errol Tobias played in a time when blacks had never played for the Springboks, never represented them, and he also took on a role which he was never meant to, as the general, as the pivot in the rugby team. Now, you say that some people saw him as a traitor, some people saw him as a trailblazer. Can you just give us a little bit more of that context? Why the two?
It had to do with opportunities offered to a selected few black people, whether it was in sport or whether it was in a professional environment or in the diplomatic service for that matter, where those who were in charge decided Kendall may be okay, so we're going to promote him, we're going to allow him into the setup, but Hein may not be okay, for whatever reasons, but mostly political. Errol Tobias decided he was going to take the opportunity, and once he got into that position, as you rightly say, playing flyer for the Springboks is a critical position, and he was up against then a 22-year-old Nas Botha, while he was already 30 years old, which you know, of course, is the age where most players have retired or are retiring. And Errol Tobias was a running fly-off as opposed to Nas Botha was predominantly a kicking fly-off. And I mean, the records are there. I don't want to promote my book and say my book is there to show you that once the guy got onto the field, he was no longer a black player, but just a super Springbok.
So why is it that people are seeing him as having been a traitor? And why is it that people are seeing Chester Williams, maybe Brayton Paulser, maybe Ashwin Willemse, those guys that came after Errol Tobias as not being traitors? What's the difference?
Well, the difference is simply that they played in the post-Unity years. So this year it's 25 years after Unity, which happened in 1992. Although one has to add that in the case of Chester Williams, he is almost like standing with one leg in the pre-Unity era and the other leg in the post-Unity era, because he played also for the South African Defence Force. A lot of people may forget about that. So in actual fact, if you're going to judge Errol Tobias, you should also judge Chester Williams, apart from the fact that Chester became the black face of the post-Unity rugby era, which is the 1995 Rugby World Cup, of course.
Heinrich, this is a massive topic that you and I have started trying to uncover, and I think I'm going to need to invite you to come back in again so we can talk a little bit more about this, a little bit more about what's in the book itself. Can you give me, in a nutshell, what does transformation do for the discourse in South Africa and beyond just rugby or sports? Is transformation the answer to the social ills, or some of the social ills that South Africa experiences? Is transformation the right path? Is this something we shouldn't even be talking about?
The question obviously needs a discussion all on its own. So I'm just going to try to do it very briefly. The bottom line is that black people need role models, and transformation assists us in creating new role models.
You know what, I think that's very well put, and I think a lot of people looking at you, speaking so wisely on a very thorny issue for a lot of people, would look at you as a role model, and I'm hoping that you'd be open to coming back on the show.
Absolutely.
And chatting some more on the matter, and let's focus directly on what's in the book. Let's focus directly on other books that have been written. Thando Manana has recently released a book. I had a chat with him. Reading the book was enlightening. There was a lot that was said, there was a lot that came out, and there's a lot that came out in this book as well.
And let me just briefly tell you that Thando's book is only the 5th book on a black rugby icon, over 120 years of official or organized black rugby, yes.
And it's 2017. Heinrich Weinhardt, thank you so much for coming through. I appreciate your time. We'll definitely be talking to this man again. He's got lots to share, and I'm sure you're going to want to catch it. Heinrich Weinhardt, the author of the book, Bursting Through the Half Gap, right here on Newsroom. Now, we'll move on to other sporting stories where Bafana coach Stuart Baxter has recalled Morgan Gould to the national team setup as one of the 5 changes to his squad to face Cabo Verde in the 2018 World Cup qualifiers. Now, the 34-year-old last played for Bafana in a 2-0 win over the Central African Republic 4 years ago.
Gould's continued solid performances for his side SuperSport United has earned him a national call-up. The veteran's experience in the dressing room on the big occasion is what Baxter feels will be required.
This is saying that we have a soldier here who will go to battle for South Africa. And in these 2 World Cup qualifiers, we're not talking in 6 months' time, in 10 months' time, in 5 years' time. We're talking here and now. And I think Morgan Gould is very well equipped to do that.
With 4 points and second in Group D, the back-to-back matches against Cape Verde can be counted as the most crucial for South Africa. The island country is yet to collect points in this campaign and will be desperate for results.
With our previous history, we can't take for granted 6 points against anybody, let alone Cape Verde, who have a lot of players with experience from Portugal on their own patch, in their own weather, with their own crowd. I don't think we should be. I think we need to be a bit more humble than that to start trumpeting these 6 easy points. These are massive points for us. When going to Nigeria, and I said we're going to need warriors, we'll need warriors here as well.
Meanwhile, the role of former Bafana player Quentin Fortune in the team is yet to be defined.
We want to promote technical staff that follow qualifications, and they have an appetite to be students of the game. Quentin is, and I think if we can tie down the nuts and bolts of how Quentin's going to work with us, partly abroad and partly here, if we can make that a job description, a definite job description, and we all accept it, then I think Quentin coming on board will be a big boost for everybody.
Bafana will assemble on Sunday and travel to Cape Verde on Tuesday. The match will be played on the 1st of September, and the return leg will be 4 days later in Durban. Lebantube, SABC News, Johannesburg.
All right, we'll take a short break. Just enough time for you to get up, stretch your legs, get yourself some coffee, and come straight back for Newsroom.
What guides us? What leads us forward? Is it the advice of our elders? Is it the actions of our people? Or the voices of our citizens? Your country is guided by the voices of its people, and your broadcaster is dependent on your voice to guide it. Get your copy of the SABC's editorial policy and have your say.
A very good morning and a warm welcome to the final hour, Jumbo Africa. I'm Elvis Preston.
I'm Kendall Makhamati.
We'll be with you until 12 o'clock today. Now, the focus is on the cannibalistic tendencies that's happening in Escort, the home of Poloni in KZN.
It was still taking Good morning to you. We want to get you involved in this conversation. What he's referring to right now is just recently, we've had 4 men appearing in court for cannibalistic behavior. In fact, actually eating human flesh. And we want to find out what your views are on the matter.
Let's take a look at what you are telling us. This one from Michael Bigham says it's disgusting and absurd. Hope God will have mercy on their souls because this is pure Satanism and devil worshipping.
Hashtag living in the last days. I am Mzwanele says this is not just a crime but a satanic act.
Well, there you have it. These are some of your comments. Please keep them coming and we'll read them as we continue. But we also focus on the big story. Mzwanele Manyi. He has denied that he's fronting for the Guptas following the purchase of the TV news channel ANN7 and the New Age newspaper to his company, Lottie Docs and Management.
Yeah, 450 million rand he paid for controlling a 90% stake, I believe it was. And we've got a whole lot of votes in, haven't we?
329 votes in. 75% of you here in South Africa and on the continent are suggesting that Jimmy Manyi or Mzwanele Manyi is fronting.
Whereas 25% say it's radical economic transformation.
Well, you're also tweeting us on that topic. This one from Mystic Man says, same Manyi who sent CV asking for a job. Hashtag ANN7. Now he's the owner. Funny part of it, the Guptas gave Brajay loan to buy it. The question is, was there other buyers, I beg your pardon?
Not Marvin Gaye says over 400 million is a lot of money. Where did he get it? Through vendor finance. This is fronting at its best. The Guptas are trying to hide from the spotlight.
Well, these are your thoughts on it. Keep them coming. We'll read them as we continue. But as usual, we also have a sports question. Kendall, Wayne Rooney in the spotlight again. Hadn't lost his hair, but he scored some goals.
That is done. He's got back some of his old shine, moving back to Everton, scoring 2 goals in 2 matches. Definitely, Eben is a massive fan of Wayne Rooney. Want to find out from you, are you a fan? Do you think that Wayne Rooney is an all-time great of the English Premier League?
Well, not Marvin Gaye says, as a Chelsea supporter, I've never liked the guy, but if Messi and Ronaldo weren't around, he would have won the Ballon d'Or at some point in time.
You know what? Messi and Ronaldo were not around, a whole lot of people would have won the Ballon d'Or. Jabu Shabangu says, Wayne Rooney back at his best again. What a good start.
Well, there you have it. These are some of your comments. Keep them coming. We'll read them. But right now, let's get down to business and take a look at your news headlines. KwaZulu-Natal police urges those who have missing family members to come forward as post-mortem for the human body parts case will be done today. The new ANN7 and New Age newspaper owner, Mzwanele Manyi, denies allegations that he's fronting for the Guptas. And the Gauteng Education Department urges parents to respond to placement offers for their children's school enrollment. Now, those are your headlines, and before we get there, let's find out from Kendall what's happening on the sports front.
Elvis, thank you very much. Good morning to you. This is what we've got for you in the sports today.
They're all professionals. They've all travelled there, so we know what to do and how to manage it to be fresh for the match.
The Springboks have no qualms about travelling to Argentina just 2 days before their rugby championship match in Salta.
We have a soldier here who will go to battle for South Africa.
Preferring experience of a youthful exuberance, Stuart Baxter recalls 34-year-old Morgan Gould to face Cape Verde in the 2018 World Cup qualifiers next month.
200th goal in the Premier League!
And Wayne Rooney becomes only the second player after Alan Shearer in the English Premier League to score 200 goals as Everton hold Manchester City to a 1-0 draw at the Etihad.
Great finish from Rooney. It's near enough right into him. But the way he deals with it is fantastic.
Of course, all of this in more detail we'll have for you at about 11:35. Do stay with Elvis as he's got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Police in KwaZulu-Natal have given the assurance that more arrests are imminent in relation to a human body part syndicate and escort on the province's Midlands. 4 men have been arrested and they appeared in the local magistrate's court. One of the 4 suspects confessed to cannibalism.
After handing himself over, the suspect led police to a house where different female body parts were found. The other 3 suspects include 2 traditional healers and a recently freed ex-convict. Fresh from a 15-year jail sentence, he's now collecting human legs within the syndicate. Outside court, an angry crowd demanded that the perpetrators be refused bail. Amongst them, 40-year-old Hleziphi Vilakazi, who waited anxiously, hoping to find closure. She says she lost her 8-year-old nephew, whose body had been mutilated and was missing some body parts.
2015. In 2015, my sister's son and his friend went missing after they were last seen playing outside. We reported them missing. The police searched for them for a week and their bodies were found mutilated. So I came here to see if I can identify one of the suspects.
All 4 suspects have been denied bail as investigations continue.
According to the investigating officer, there are more arrests that are going to be effected and soon, because their investigation is close to the end and there's evidence that they have.
The case has been postponed to next Monday for a formal bail application. Sibonga Gongambata, SABC News, Escort.
Now, earlier we spoke to the KZN police spokesperson, Colonel Tembeka Mbele, on the latest regarding the case, and this is what she said.
Today at 11 o'clock, the postmortem is the mortuary, and also the team from the National Office from Forensic have arrived, so that they'll be also there in the postmortem, and then the blood samples have to be taken, the tissues from the deceased parts, they have to be taken, and also to confirm who the person is. But then we request the community from the escort area to please come forward to the police station as soon as possible, just before 11. And then they're going to get the directives from there so that the samples. But we are calling upon the community members, the relatives of the people who went missing and they've reported them, or they're not even reported them, so that the samples will also be taken from them to identify the deceased. Because for now, we're not sure whether these body parts are for one person, so the samples are going to determine that during the postmortem. Also in the postmortem, the experts from National Office are going to reconstruct the body, also that's just going to identify whether it's a body of one person with different people.
Now, those family members that need to come forward of some of their missing family members, where should they go and how do they get in touch with you?
They should go to the escort police station, then they're going to get the directives from there. The station, they must mention that we said, because the IO is requesting that, so that if they're at escort, because as I'm here, I do not know where the mortuary is. But if they are at escort police station, then the police, they are going to take them to the mortuary, or if they've got transport, they're going to direct them to the mortuary, and they're going to meet with the investigating officer there.
Now, with regards to the arrest, how many arrests are still pending or outstanding, and do you expect more to be arrested?
Yeah, we expect more to be arrested. The investigation, and we're in a very coming to the end of investigation for now. For these other suspects that has to be arrested, but arrest is imminent because we've got a good evidence against them. We only have to get them.
Is this the first time that you have found, as the police, people that either have cannibalistic tendencies or people smuggling with body parts?
Although it's not the first time, but this is the first huge incident. But you remember last month, or towards the end of last month, there was a person who was arrested here in Durban CBD, found with the head of a human being. And then on further investigation, this same person went to identify where he found the body. And there are 2 people arrested in that case, and the case is still going on at court. And the deceased was unfortunately identified. He was also staying there in Mayville, but from Bizana.
Colonel, at this point in time, with the investigation ongoing, do you understand or know what the motive is behind the body parts of people being found with these people?
The motive, we cannot confirm the motive for now, but I cannot divide on the investigation because we're in a very, this is very sensitive, but I know 2 of them are the traditional healers. So the traditional healers, they work with Muti, witchcraft, and also they claim that they are healing people. But since there are traditional healers involved, it should be something to do with the traditional healing or witchcraft also, but we cannot confirm that.
And do you suspect that this is perhaps a syndicate in the making here?
Because we've arrested these 4 and more than 3, we're still expecting to arrest more than 2. It should be a syndicate because first of all, these traditional healers are not staying in one house. The other one are staying at Escort and other one staying at Amangwe. And there are these 2 other suspects that are, the one who's a Paroli and the other one. I think they are working together. So obviously it should be a syndicate. That is why we are going to arrest more than 7 people. And our investigation, we've got a very serious information that we're still following. That we are going to divulge on it once the breakthrough has been done, like once other suspects have been arrested. But as I'm talking to you now, investigating officer is not sleeping. He's working day and night following other serious information related to the same people.
Now, remaining with the story, we're now joined from our Durban studios by our reporter Sibanga Konkembata, who is closely following the story for us. A very good morning to you and welcome.
A very good morning to you in studio.
First and foremost, tell us, you've been following this story now, and tell us about your experience about uncovering the story. It must have been traumatizing.
Well, at first, when we first found out what was happening or what had happened when this one suspect had handed himself over to the police, in the beginning, the entire story might actually sound very fictitious because in this instance, it's some of the stories that we only hear about in community being spoken about, but never actually finding out whether or not are they true. So once we got to court on Monday, that's where it started to sink in, even with myself, that this actually happens around this part of the province. And people of the community, some of them were aware, some of them were quite shocked, some of them were quite intrigued to find out that who might this be? In the beginning, they thought it was one person. And later on in the day, when they found out that there's actually 4 suspects that are actually appearing in court today, then suddenly more groups started to emerge. And then there was tension outside because they wanted to find out who is making their community very much unsafe. Like you can see in the background behind me, scores of community members came out and flocked out outside the Escort magistrate, trying to find out exactly who might this be. But there were also people in between those scores who were actually once victims of their family members being missing. We spoke to Uhleziphi Vilakazi, the 40-year-old who lost her niece, who was actually last seen playing with a friend in 2015, and then suddenly the 2 young boys disappeared, and then found out a week later their bodies were mutilated. There were lots of parts missing, including ears, eyes, and some of their legs, which is quite very gruesome when she explained to me in detail on how it made them feel as a family. And inside court, when we had to listen to their bail hearing being denied by the state, the suspect themselves, as they were standing inside the dock, there was this motion of silence and darkness. Suddenly, the courtroom became very cold. And you could see that one of the suspects, who is allegedly an ex-convict, he was reported to have been specializing with collecting human legs within this so-called syndicate. So you can understand from that point of view that within this alleged syndicate, everyone had their own specific task, until a point where this other suspect just came forward to the police and handed himself over, saying that he's tired of eating human flesh, something that is still even now very much unbelievable, but it's actually true.
What is the sense that you're getting from the community? Is there a sense of anxiety and fear and trepidation in terms of what might happen to their children?
The community, as they were coming out, the groups became larger. People were interested in finding out what's happening outside court. People were interested in finding out mostly who might these people be, because there was a sense that probably they might know these people. They might be people from their own communities, because you will remember that there are 3 possible crime scenes. There's 3 houses which are situated in 3 different communities within Escort. So all of them came out to find out who might this be, because in the current situation, you might find that things like these might be reported only to find out that it's your neighbor. And especially for those who were directly affected, seeing that their family members are going missing, they wanted to actually find some sort of closure. At least now you'd be able to understand that this happened to our son, this happened to my daughter, and it's because of this man who I might have known or who I might have seen on the day that they disappeared. Because there seems to be quite a number of cases in escorts of people going missing for years. Some of them to date have not been recovered, their bodies actually. Some of them have not been yet recovered, but some of them actually might be involved directly with this case.
Now, we understand that the magistrate yesterday cautioned against naming the suspects as the community is very angry. Tell us more about that, and can we expect maybe an uprising in that community in Escort?
The states chose to withhold their identities and names for their safety firstly, and also for the safety of those who are victims of such crimes. Also, it was also to protect their investigation because, like Colonel Tembeka Mpege had explained earlier on, that more suspects are yet to be arrested because there's quite a lot of sense that there's so many people involved in this alleged syndicate. So identifying those who are already arrested might actually jeopardize their investigation, might actually jeopardize their entire case. So for now, their identities were chosen to be withheld just for those reasons until Monday morning, where they will be allowed to actually apply for bail, since the states denied them bail yesterday, fearing for their safety and seeing that the community is quite angry at them.
Sibonga, now today we also heard from the Colonel that there will be the post-mortem of some of the victims there. Will we be covering that and looking after the story and moving forward?
Although we are not at Escort right now, but we will be following up what's happening with the post-mortem at 11 today, because we understand that the body parts that were recovered were actually of a female, but forensics will still put them together to try and be able to identify who the female was and possibly try and contact its family members, because they might have been missing for quite a long time, possibly at Escort area, or might possibly be from another part or in another province in South Africa. So once they be able to identify who the female was, they'll be able to actually solve her case and possibly find a lead as to who attacked her in the first place.
Sibonga Konke Mbata, I thank you so much for your time and joining us from our Durban studios, giving us the latest on following that story. As we move on, we're asking you that question today. It's a very perturbing story, and that's why we're asking you, what are your views in relation to the men that was found eating human flesh in KZN in Escort in the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands? Would like to get to know what you are telling us on the Facebook page as well as on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom. Let's take a look at what you are telling us in the meantime. This one coming from Ian says that this is not just a crime but a satanic act. That's Andrew Mzwanele. This one from Onuke says, hope their capacity serve right. And JP says, isn't Escort the meat capital of South Africa? I'm glad I'm a vegetarian. Well, that's a disturbing thought, isn't it? Your polony on your table, it might contain something else. Well, spoiling your breakfast this morning, but let's move on now. Very important story breaking today. Mzwanele Manyi has denied that he's fronting for the Guptas following the announcement yesterday that the Gupta-owned Oak Bay Investments has sold TV news channel ANN7 and the New Age newspaper to Manyi's Lottie Docs and Management for 450 million rand. The sale comes after the Bank of Baroda cut ties with the Gupta-owned firms. South Africa's top 4 banks, as you know, closed the group's accounts in 2016.
I'm punishable 10 years in jail. I've been very involved with the drafting of the BE codes and the rules and regulations around that. So why would I be the first one to go and commit a crime? So if somebody is saying I'm fronting, that person is accusing me of committing a criminal offense. And these days, I do not take accusations lightly. People making stupid accusations like that, I'll take them to court.
Well, of course, that is Jimmy Manyi. We'll continue with that story and bring you an update. And that's why, of course, we're asking you that question on the poll. We want to find out from you whether or not this is fronting or whether you think it's a radical economic transformation, this entire deal, the takeover of AN7 and TNA. Well, so far, we have 329 votes in. There's 21 hours left to vote. So far, 75% of South Africans and people on the continent says that it is fronting. Not Marvin Gaye says over 400 million rand, a lot of money. Where did he get it? This is fronting at its best. The Guptas are trying to hide from the spotlight. This one from Mystic Man says, the same Manyi who sent his CV asking for a job, hashtag AN7, now he's the owner. Funny part of it, the Guptas gave Brajay's loan to buy it. Question is, was there any other buyers? Was there any other takers? We don't know at this point in time. Atini says, congrats to Jimmy, triple BE fronting. Keep them coming, we'll read them as we continue. Ian Gauteng, the Education Department says that parents who've not yet responded to offers of placement for their children going to grades 1 to 8 in the province's schools next year are causing serious delays in the system. The department says that 117,000 learners have been placed since the placement period started 3 weeks ago. The department had received 285,000 applications when the online applications closed in June. Parents who have not received any response since their applications have been urged to contact the district office. SABC News exclusively spoke to the Gauteng Education MEC, Panyasa Lesufi.
What happened is that we are using what we call an online registration, where parents apply using an online registration. Now we've concluded, we've given them confirmation letters to say we have applied for a child to be at this school. But parents are not accepting. And if they don't accept, it means those that are on the waiting list cannot access those particular opportunities. And this makes the vacancy list to be too long. So we're pleading with parents. We're giving them the next 7 days for them to accept, or else we'll remove them and then open the spaces to those that are on the waiting list so that they can. So we're urging each and every parent, go. We have registered, go on our online system, click acceptance, or go to the school that we've placed you and fill the necessary documents there and take the spaces. If you don't, we have no choice but to give it to the next available parents that wants those spaces.
How do these delays affect the overall administration processes that you have to work with?
Well, we've given ourselves until the end of October to conclude all these processes because we need between October and December to plan for the next academic year. That is why we're urging all parents, because we are now on the verge of opening for late registration. Those that either through to personal problems and challenges, they've relocated to Gauteng. We need to give them a second chance for them to apply as well. But we can't do that unless the parents that we've given them spaces accept those spaces. And if they don't, unfortunately, they will forfeit those spaces and have to give it to other people that need them desperately.
These kinds of issues you're dealing with, are you looking at a scenario where you're going to do things differently next year during that process?
No, we've done well, to be quite frank. Actually, next year, we're expanding it beyond the grade 1 and 8 that we've incorporated. We really believe every grade must do it. This gives us an opportunity to plan well. We'll know which areas need new schools, which areas need a conversion from a single-based language school to a multi-language school, or an area that has just been developed that we believe we need to build a new school. So we just have to continue with the trend that we're working on now.
ANC Member of Parliament Dr. Makosi Khoza says the ANC's political structures are captured by corruption and that she will continue to speak truth to power in order to save the party. She was speaking to SABC News.
What makes me probably speak out, it's because I have seen how corruption, the politics of patronage, is eating up the party. As we speak, we no longer control the executive capital, which is Tshwane. We no longer control the legislative capital, which is Cape Town. And we no longer control the economic hub, which is Johannesburg. And to me, I've got to do my part to save the party that I so love. But if they feel that constitute ill-discipline, hard luck for them. I will still speak out about corruption because I think corruption is the biggest enemy of poverty. I mean, any development cannot happen if you have the levels of corruption that we have in this country. What is wrong with the party? Why do you have people like me who would rather be speaking outside of the structures? Where are the structures? And by the way, in order to capture the state, you need to capture the political structures. And in my view, I think we are in that situation. And the fact that I am punished, and people who have done a lot of gruesome things to the party, who have brought the name of the party into disrepute, have not been punished. And I think I am doing this for the generations to come, that no matter what, it is very important to speak truth to power. You have to be consistent. It is painful, but that pain is rewarding, because at the end of the day, other people begin to come to you and say, you know what, we've been scared to speak about these things. Thank you for speaking out.
NEC member Becky Cele says that the party's NEC is to be blamed for the ANC court case in KwaZulu-Natal. He said the decision-making body made the wrong decision by allowing the 2015 KZN elective conference to go ahead. Cele was speaking at a cadres forum in Gamalake on the province's south coast.
As the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal eagerly awaits a High Court decision on the provincial leadership battle, Becky Cele has thrown the blame at the NEC for the matter having gone to court. 5 branch members took the party to court over the 2015 elective conference, wanting the court to nullify its outcomes. The court matter was heard in the Pietermaritzburg High Court last week. Judgment was reserved. Cele says the NEC's decision was incorrect and had led to not only party matters being deliberated in the courts, but has created serious divisions. Cele called on party members to unite regardless of the outcome of the case. He said they must reclaim their party.
Well, that's your news for now. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back after that.
If you ask this Irish master whiskey distiller why sometimes whiskey is spelled with an E and sometimes without, he'd say,
oh, to be sure. You feel so good, look. It's the whole thing. They're back and get off in the whiskey without the E.
Yeah, didn't catch that. But if you asked us the difference, we'd tell you that every whiskey from around the world is spelled without the E, except for Irish and American whiskies. Cheers. Tops at Spa. Good whiskey, good advice, no Irish accents.
Africa is known for its exceptional natural beauty, its wildlife and natural resources, its many languages and diverse culture, but also its poverty, its reckless road rules, corruption and bribery, and conflict. Would you travel through Africa alone as an African to learn a little bit more about your roots? For many of you, perhaps not, especially not by public transport. But one man did just that. And to share his journey, well, we are joined in studio by the author of Through a Black Iris, Alec Chingapi. Very good morning to you, Alec.
Morning.
I love this initiative. Tell me, why was it important for you to travel on your own through the continent?
I wanted to get a sense of understanding of Africa, and if I would be treated the same way as the many books and blogs I'd read by Westerners who had come to Africa. And, you know, their experience of being in Africa is a bit different for a black man traveling compared to a white American. So I actually wanted to go out and experience Africa for myself. And as much as I could go to Thailand or Bali or wherever for a holiday, I decided, you know what, before I go overseas, let me actually go see the rest of my continent. I say I'm an African, but you know what, spending my life in 1 or 2 countries, I actually need to go see the rest of Africa and see what it is about.
What would you say was the difference for the black man making that experience traveling through Africa?
I went in with a certain stereotype in my mind. I thought, for example, that if I just knocked at somebody's door and said, guys, I need a place to stay, I'm from Zimbabwe or South Africa, they would be immediately say, no, you know, as a black guy, no. But the difference, there was actually no difference, to be honest. What I thought would happen didn't happen. I was welcomed with open arms into many people's homes when they found out that I was traveling and that I was a foreigner. Some treated me as if I was a local. So to be honest, there was no difference, you know, except in some instances where the assumption was I'm a Nigerian, and I think that stemmed through a whole lot of the countries where people assumed I'm from Nigeria.
That's a stereotype that will be very difficult to overcome in the short term. But so you found Africa to be a warm-hearted, open-minded, friendly place.
Yes. Yes, yes.
That's wonderful to hear.
Yeah, I mean, in Uganda, I had a family open up their doors to me. They told me, you know what, we're told to book a hotel for you, but we're not going to let you go book a hotel when we have a room for you here. Please come stay with us. They fed me. We had such a good time. And we had just met that very afternoon, and they're like, no, it's fine. Even though we actually don't know you, please stay with us. We can't let somebody, you know, a brother, go stay in a hotel when there's room here.
That's incredible. I really like that. That's the Africa that you don't read about in popular culture today, which is rather sad. Now, you've decided to take public transport, and of course we know about the colonial legacy of the trains and so forth, but what was your experience?
It differed from country to country. I mean, for example, in Egypt, yes, the road network is great, and I used a bit of that, but the train network is fantastic. And they have a train that runs from Cairo to basically the other side of Egypt in Aswan by the lake. And they have a specific train for tourists. It costs an arm and a leg, and they make sure that tourists always use that train. And it's nice and comfortable. So I was like, okay, this works out. And then I get to a certain part of Sudan where we spent 3/4 of the journey on the wrong side of the road, because that was the only part that was tarred, because the other side was not a road at all. And it was, my heart was in my mouth the whole trip, because I was like, there's oncoming traffic and we're just playing dodge the bullet, dodge the bullet. And you get, for example, into Tanzania, between Tanzania and Zambia, there's a train called the Tazara line. It's over 2,000 kilometers, a train line 2,000 kilometers long. That was initially built by the Chinese in the, I think, 60s and 70s. It went into disrepair, and then they rebuilt it again, and it was fantastic. So there was good moments with public transport and bad moments. But I mean, with the train lines, that turned out to be quite a surprise for me.
Yeah, it's a legacy of colonialism. If you're going to strip a place of its natural resources, you need train lines to transport all that stuff out. You know, that's the one thing. Tell me about the people and the countries that impressed you the most, the people that impressed you the most.
I'd love to say, interestingly, the Sudanese people. I was in Sudan for about a week. Even though there was a strong cultural and language barrier, I could not understand Arabic, aside from saying shukran. There was many instances where people were willing to share food, not with me asking, just I'm walking past and they're like, okay, a cup of tea, or here's some sugar cane, or here's this, or here's that. And for me, that was so heartwarming. It was, and the biggest one, where it really touched my heart, when I got to a town called Dongola, I just arrived and I got a police station. And the policeman tells me that, okay, you know what, the place you're looking for is not around, but before you go looking for a hotel, have some food to eat, because I don't know if you're going to eat tonight. And he calls his wife, and she cooks. And there was like 4 of us sitting there with him and the other 2 guys and his kid, and all eating this meal. And I'm like, you guys just met me less than 10 minutes ago, and here we are, you're offering me your food. So I found them very, very warm-hearted and very, very open. You know, when I'd get lost, even though we didn't understand each other, they'd find somebody who could understand English, and then they would direct me around. So Sudan, surprisingly for me, was quite warm-hearted.
Wow, that's wonderful to hear. Now, of course, all the myths around Africa, it's the dark continent, riddled with poverty and disease. It's a narrative that's very westernized.
Yes.
You've dispelled all those myths, have you?
I wouldn't say dispelled. I just, you know, I found myself, I didn't stay in nice hotels. I was on a budget, so wherever the budget could afford, that's where I stayed. And some places were not so nice. And I came to the realization that it actually doesn't matter which country you go to, whether you're in France, whether you're in the States. Each country has its good and bad parts. It has its poverty, and a location or location, whatever you want to call it, is the same. It might, maybe the currency in use might be different.
Yeah.
Maybe the structure of a house might be different, but it's all the same. Poverty is poverty, whether you're in Sudan, you're in Zimbabwe, or in the States. So, I mean, the poverty, all of that about Africa, I'm going to say it's been dispelled. I just think that people overemphasize that part about Africa, and there's more to us than the darkness, the poverty, and the crime.
Yeah, it's often highlighted through Western channels. But the big word, of course, is corruption. That's always associated with what we do on the continent. Is there such a thing as corruption, or is it just a normal way that people live?
So, corruption is it's there on almost every country. I mean, I was crossing the border. I'm going to say the country.
Yeah.
I'll allow people to read.
Further south or further north?
Further north.
Yeah.
I was crossing a border, and I mean, I'd previously been in that country like a week before, and I was coming back in, and I don't need a visa to enter that country. And this immigration official was adamant that I needed a visa, and I'm like, no, we have an agreement between our countries. We don't need visas. And after like 5 to 10 minutes of holding my passport, and I was adamant, I'm not going to pay. Eventually threw my passport to the next immigration official, who just stamped it and let me go. This guy had been cajoling for $100 and I'm just like, there's no way I am going to pay for something I don't need.
Well, in the end, you just have to, I suppose, stand your ground a little bit. But now, in conclusion, if you're going to give somebody, of course, you have to read the book Through the Black Iris of Alex Chingapi. But if you had to give somebody who has a romantic idea of traveling from Cairo to Cape or Cape to Cairo, what would you tell them?
Go in with an open mind and be emotionally prepared for whatever comes your way. I mean, you will make a plan to say, I'm going to be here, 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 and this is the transport I'm going to use. And trust me, it never works out. But so the best thing is to just go with an open mind and go with the flow.
Go with the flow. You're in Africa after all.
Yes.
That's what we do. We make things happen no matter what.
Yes.
Alec, it's a great book. I look forward to going through it and finishing it. Anyone, we all have the idea, romantic idea of going Cape to Cairo or Cairo to Cape one way or the other in our lives. Is it something that you'd tell people to do once in their life?
Yes. I think I would honestly encourage people to travel if they can afford it, if they can have the time. And I mean, it opens your eyes. You get to meet, fine, we have the narrative of different people, different cultures.
Yeah.
But it is also relaxing for the soul to be away from the normal grind of a day-to-day.
We're all grinding, there's no doubt. Read this book, it's a great book. Alex Chingapi, Through a Black Iris. It's going from Cairo down to the Cape. And it's an experience, he says, we all should make once in a lifetime.
Why is there a dispute over who is the rightful heir to the throne?
What I can say is that Masindi is a woman. She's a girl. She's a girl child. Because I think that if she was a male, there's no way that anybody was going to dispute the fact that she is the rightful heir.
Do you recognize her as your rightful heir?
Yeah, no, I would definitely say that she is my daughter. She grew up there.
What is the intention?
I want my throne.
Join me in Port Said live every Monday to Thursday at 17:30.
Good morning. We start off the sports bulletin with a story about how the Springbok management team believes strongly that the travel plans laid out for the Springboks traveling to Argentina for their test match in Salta are solid and will not prejudice the team's preparations for the all-important test in the northwest of the fiercely patriotic rugby nation. The Springboks leave for Argentina on Wednesday.
It is a confident Springbok side going on tour after beating Argentina 37-15 in Port Elizabeth on Saturday. but playing in Argentina will be a far bigger challenge. The match will be followed by even more travelling as the Boks travel to Australia and New Zealand for matches against the Wallabies and the All Blacks on the 9th and the 16th of next month. But a plan is in place.
There's a 6-hour difference, so our thing first of all is we don't sleep too much on the plane on the way there, so we will try and just have little naps. So by the time we get there at 11 o'clock in Buenos Aires, we will then go sleep because we'll be tired, and the next morning, get up, then we fly to Salta, and then we have a session that afternoon.
Argentina at home is a different proposition. Last year, the Pumas beat the Boks 26-24 in Salta.
The Argentinians are a very proud nation, and they're not going to take this past weekend lightly, and especially going back home, playing in front of their home crowd, they're going to be very physical, and they're going to want to prove a point. And all we can do is stick to what we do and focus on our own job and not focus on them.
The Boks will also don the red jersey in this match to mark the 25th anniversary of rugby unity in South Africa. Zolani Moya, SABC News, Port Elizabeth.
The Samu said that the Springboks really should have left at exactly the same time as Argentina, go straight away, do all of their recovery in Argentina like the Argentinians have. Now, Bafana coach Stuart Baxter has chosen experience over youthful exuberance to instill more steel in the backbone of the Bafana squad to play Cabo Verde over 2 World Cup qualifiers next month. The 34-year-old last featured for Bafana in a 2-0 win over the Central African Republic 4 years ago.
Gould's continued solid performances for his side SuperSport United has earned him a national call-up.
This is saying that we have a soldier here who will go to battle for South Africa. And in these 2 World Cup qualifiers, we're not talking in 6 months' time, in 10 months' time, in 5 years' time. We're talking here and now. And I think Morgan Gould is very well equipped to do that.
With 4 points and second in Group D, the back-to-back matches against Cape Verde can be counted as the most crucial for South Africa. The island country is yet to collect points in this campaign and will be desperate for results.
With our previous history, we can't take for granted 6 points against anybody, let alone Cape Verde, who have a lot of players with experience from Portugal on their own patch, in their own weather, with their own crowd.
Bafana will assemble on Sunday and travel to Cape Verde on Tuesday. The match will be played on the 1st of September, and the return leg will be 4 days later in Durban. Lebantube, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Of course, now one of the big talking points of that particular selection was how SuperSport United's defender Morgan Gould's inclusion in the squad caught many by surprise. I mean, he last played for Bafana back in 2013. Football analyst David Kekana was here in studio, and he says Bafana coach Stuart Baxter was looking for experience when he included Gould in his squad.
I think the rationale from Stuart Baxter is that he needs an old head at the back. He's not sure about the state of injury, specifically with reference to Matoho, who picked up an injury against Bloemfontein Celtic this past week when Kaizer Chiefs were playing. So to thrust a young player like Lorenzo Godinho into a defensive position away from home, if he makes a mistake, he would have killed his international career. And he's not sure about doing that because he needs Godinho to grow in that position. So a 34-year-old Morgan Gould who's been playing very well for SuperSport United, and you remember that, I mean, he's already played a couple of finals in last year, 2 of them to be precise, and even in the Nedbank Cup against Orlando Pirates, he was exceptional. So
I can already hear people saying 34 years, geez, he's old.
You know, I think when it comes to experience and having had a discussion with Stuart, it's not about age. It's about whether a person can effectively do the job. And he thinks that Morgan is an old head and he can lead the defense very well and he organizes very well. It's not about just him being there. There's still, again, Thulani Hlatshwayo, who's the team captain. If you're talking about pace, Thulani can take that part and Morgan can organize behind him. So that combination can work. I think the greatest problem about this defense and now having to choose Morgan is because Buhlem Konazi, who's at Vets, who is a partner of Thulani Hlatshwayo, is injured and he's got a long-term injury. And for me, he's the very essence of this defense as far as Bafana is concerned when he's healed. So Morgan is the best choice.
Okay, let's settle on the back line, including the goalkeeper. What are your views?
I think with the keeper, which is the question that I asked him, you know, if you have 2 of 3 keepers that you've chosen with niggling problems.
I know Itu as well picked up something as well.
Itu had a chest problem in the week. That's why he didn't play in Bloemfontein for Kaizer Chiefs. And Kit also has a strain, which of course still needs to be looked up by the medical of Bafana Bafana. So in that sense, I was a little bit apprehensive with choosing 2 goalkeepers. But he said that he's going to look at that, and his doctors are going to be looking at the players before departure, and they will make an informed decision based on that, whether to call somebody in or to drop and drop one of the keepers, or to take them with overseas.
Now, Wayne Rooney scored his 200th Premier League goal in Everton's 1-1 draw at Manchester City. Both teams ended with 10 men on the Etihad Stadium last night. Now, Rooney's 35th minute goal looked to have earned Everton a surprise victory. Rooney became just the 2nd player to reach 200 Premier League goals. Former Newcastle and England striker Alan Shearer ended his career with 260 goals. City had been forced to play the entire second half for the man down after Kyle Walker was sent off for a 2nd yellow card on the stroke of half-time.
He's the 2nd name on an exclusive list after Alan Shearer. The replay, he has a little look. He has a little look at Calvert-Lewin, so therefore he knows where Calvert-Lewin is. Just push him out. There's no elbows involved or anything, and I do believe the yellow card. It is. Gets worse for Manchester City.
Substitute Raheem Sterling ensured that Rooney wouldn't have the celebrations all his way when he levelled in the 82nd minute with a rocket. The numbers were eventually even up late on. Everton's Morgan Schneiderlin also sent off again for a 2nd bookable offence in the 88th minute. There was no time for the hosts to make the most of the even numbers.
Schneiderlin, who was booked early on, he's going to go. It's a 2nd yellow, and it's 10 against 10.
Now, one thing I was admiring on those Everton jerseys was that Sport Pesa going across the chest of all those players. Sport Pesa being a Kenyan company, something admirable. Now, Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Conor McGregor are gearing up for one of the most anticipated and controversial fights of the year in Las Vegas this coming Saturday. Mayweather, who has not fought in nearly 2 years, needs a win to surpass Rocky Marciano's record and reach 50-0 for his career. While McGregor, who is making his professional debut in boxing, is 21 with 3 losses in mixed martial arts. Now, in spite of the risk to his record and legacy, Mayweather has promised a knockout.
Like to quit, and you will wave that white flag, because you can choose which way you want to go. I'm guaranteeing you this. You going out on your face or you going out on your back? Now, which way you want to go? Which way you want to go? That's right. Sit quiet, you little bitch.
This is my first time in a boxing ring. And in 6 weeks, I run boxing.
There you have it. 2 motor mouths will be having a go at each other on the weekend. Should make for some entertaining viewing, even if it's not real boxing. Now, in groundbreaking news, 3 international cricket tours of Pakistan will take place later this year. The tours will be the first by a test-playing nation since the attack on the bus carrying the Sri Lankan cricket team in Lahore back in 2009, which left 6 of their players injured and 8 people, including 6 policemen, dead. World 11, managed by Zimbabwe's former captain Andy Flower, will play 3 T20 matches in Lahore next month, with the players expected to be from the world's top test-playing countries to be announced later this week. This will be followed by a visit to Pakistan by Sri Lanka in October, and the West Indies, who are now called the Windies, in November. It's now hit 11 minutes before midday. This is where I say goodbye. I'll be seeing you tomorrow morning with the entire team. From all of us here in Auckland Park, we hope you have a wonderful Tuesday afternoon. And until tomorrow morning, Lisalingsin.
What